Beneath the surface of the world we walk upon lies a kingdom that is neither animal nor plant. It stretches across forests, fields, gardens, and even city streets, existing quietly in the shadows of roots and rocks. It does not call attention to itself, nor does it move with urgency. It simply continues, unseen and unbothered, forming one of the oldest and most essential systems of life on Earth. This is the kingdom of fungi, a vast and silent realm where life grows in stillness and decay becomes renewal. Unlike plants that reach toward sunlight or animals that roam in search of food, fungi live in between. They do not seek light, yet they are alive with invisible activity. Their energy comes not from the sun, but from the matter that once lived, the fallen leaves, the forgotten wood, the layers of soil filled with quiet memory. While other forms of life chase growth in bursts and seasons, fungi move at a pace that can only be called patient. They extend themselves slowly, thread by thread, beneath the surface, binding the ground together in ways we rarely see or understand. In this quiet kingdom, there are no grand movements. There are no predators or prey. Instead, there is exchange. Every handful of soil holds hundreds of tiny networks, each one sending and receiving, dissolving and reforming. The threads that make up a fungus, known as hyphae, move with gentle persistence, seeking moisture, nutrients, and connection. They do not compete loudly for survival. They collaborate in silence. They join with roots, intertwine with stones, and flow through the remains of life that has come before. The forest, the meadow, and even the decomposing log all rest upon this invisible foundation. When we think of fungi, we often imagine mushrooms, the small shapes that rise briefly after rain. But those are only the fleeting fruiting bodies, the visible expressions of something much larger and more enduring beneath the surface. The true body of the fungus, the mycelium, remains below. It stretches out in branching filaments that can extend for kilometers, weaving through the soil in patterns too intricate for the eye to follow. It moves quietly, never rushing, never stopping, maintaining the slow rhythm of the earth itself. In a forest, every tree stands connected to its neighbors not only by wind and shadow, but by these delicate threads. Through the mycelium, trees share nutrients, warnings, and subtle chemical messages. One tree in sunlight may send carbon to another in shade. One that suffers from disease may receive aid from its neighbors through these underground lines. The forest is not a collection of isolated trunks, but a single, breathing organism held together by fungal threads. It is sometimes called the wood wide web, though unlike the networks of human creation, this one has no noise, no haste, no interruption. It functions in stillness, its signals measured in time too slow for us to feel. In this underground exchange, decay is not an ending. It is part of a continuous cycle that does not break or restart, but flows. A fallen branch does not simply rot away, it becomes food for the fungal network. The molecules that once formed bark and leaf dissolve slowly, drawn into the web of threads and redistributed into the soil. In time, those same nutrients rise again into new roots, new leaves, and new life. Nothing in this kingdom is wasted. Every layer of death becomes a quiet contribution to something living. Even in the most unremarkable places, this process continues. Beneath the concrete of a city park, beneath the thin soil of a roadside ditch, tiny strands of mycelium continue their patient work. They digest, rebuild, and connect. They are unaffected by seasons or silence, by the movements above them. Their purpose is simple and continuous: to take what once was and make it ready for what will be, to turn waste into foundation, to turn time itself into structure. Fungi live without the sun, but not without warmth. Within their microscopic cells, reactions unfold steadily, producing just enough energy to sustain motion. It is a chemistry of patience, each step deliberate and calm. There is no sudden burst of light, only the constant, quiet conversion of what was once alive into the basis for more life. The soil breathes because of this invisible work. Each breath of the forest depends on the unseen activity below it. If one could listen closely enough, perhaps there would be a sound, a faint hum of growth, a soft shifting of matter. But fungi do not announce themselves. They remain content in their role as caretakers of the unseen. To understand them is to understand stillness, the kind of movement that cannot be rushed, the kind of life that thrives without being noticed. In this way, the fungal world mirrors the calm cycles that sustain existence itself. It moves at the speed of decomposition and rebirth, reminding us that every ending carries within it a quiet beginning. Beneath the feet of every passerby, beneath the roots of every tree, the silent kingdom continues, ancient, necessary, and endlessly patient. Fungi live without sunlight. They are neither dependent on the day's brightness nor confined by the rhythms of dawn and dusk. Their world is one of shadows, of gentle moisture, of slow chemical transformation. They do not need leaves to gather light or chlorophyll to capture energy. Instead, they draw their sustenance from what is already here, from the dead, the fallen, the forgotten. In their quiet way, fungi turn endings into beginnings without ever seeing the sun. Most living things reach upward. Plants stretch toward the sky, seeking the warmth of the sun. Animals move across open spaces in search of food and shelter. But fungi exist in stillness. They grow inward, outward, and downward, into wood, into soil, into matter that has lost its motion. They are masters of darkness, finding nourishment in decay where light cannot reach. What the eye perceives as lifeless, fungi perceive as full of carbon, full of energy, full of quiet potential. In this process, there is no violence, no competition, only transformation. Fungi dissolve matter through the release of enzymes. These enzymes, invisible and odorless, seep through the materials they touch, fallen leaves, rotting bark, dead insects, and even the remains of animals, breaking them down into their simplest components. The process is slow, patient, and complete. Bit by bit, molecules separate. Proteins become amino acids, wood becomes sugar, and all of it becomes food for something else. Through this slow conversion, fungi create the foundation for life that follows. The ability to thrive without light has shaped their entire existence. Long before plants appeared on land, fungi had already mastered the art of living in the dark. Their energy comes not from the stars above but from the cycles below. In the absence of light, they built a world that functions through touch and contact, a world of chemistry rather than color, of texture rather than brightness. Every thread of fungal life is sensitive to moisture, pressure, and the faint traces of nutrients in the surrounding matter. It moves not by seeing, but by sensing. It grows toward what it needs, guided by gradients of temperature and chemical concentration, responding quietly to the faintest cues. This way of life makes fungi remarkably resilient. They inhabit caves where no light enters, the deep ocean floor where the sun's reach ends, and even the interiors of rocks where conditions change only over centuries. Some live symbiotically within the tissues of plants, never needing to emerge into the open. Others form crusts on old wood, breaking it down over decades until it returns entirely to the soil. The absence of sunlight does not hinder them. It frees them. It allows them to move into places that light cannot fill, to work in environments where silence and stability prevail. Living without sunlight also means living without haste. Growth for fungi is an unhurried process. Each filament or hypha extends only micrometers at a time, feeling its way forward, branching, exploring, sometimes retreating. The movement is nearly imperceptible, yet over years it can cover vast distances. A single fungal colony can spread beneath a forest floor for kilometers, connecting the roots of countless plants. It grows not by speed, but by persistence. It does not need the rush of daylight hours or the urgency of seasons. This progress is measured in patience. The world above may change. Leaves fall, rivers shift, winters come and go. But beneath it all, the fungal web continues. It adapts to every temperature, every texture, every passing age. It does not bloom or wilt with the day. It simply remains, alive in darkness, untroubled by the turning of the earth. Where light-dependent life fades with the setting sun, fungi continue their quiet labor, sustaining the unseen balance that underlies every ecosystem. In the human world, light often symbolizes clarity and life, while darkness suggests mystery or decay. Yet for fungi, darkness is neither frightening nor empty. It is simply the environment where their work can unfold undisturbed. Their presence in the dark is not absence, but purpose. In the places where sight fails, fungi continue their steady, essential task, restoring balance, recycling the past, ensuring that nothing truly ends. This ability to live without sunlight is not a limitation. It is an ancient strategy for endurance. It represents a kind of wisdom embedded in nature, the understanding that life does not depend on brilliance or visibility, but on quiet persistence. In a world that values what can be seen and measured, fungi remind us of the power that exists in the unseen, the slow, and the hidden. They teach that light is not the only source of life, that growth can happen in darkness, quietly, without witness or applause. In their stillness, they perform one of the most important acts on Earth. They break down what no other life form can. They release the locked nutrients that sustain forests and fields. They hold the balance between creation and decay. And they do it all without ever reaching toward the sun. In their silence, fungi represent the quiet truth of existence, that even in darkness, life continues, steady and unhurried, working beneath the surface where the roots of renewal begin. The body of a fungus is not one solid form but a network, an intricate web made of countless threads that extend in every direction. These threads, known as hyphae, are so thin that a single one is nearly invisible to the human eye. Yet together, they form vast systems called mycelium, capable of covering entire landscapes. They live within soil, beneath bark, and even inside living roots. The hyphae move slowly, seeking moisture and nutrients, joining, splitting, and branching endlessly. There is no clear beginning or end. The network simply expands, one cell at a time, weaving its silent architecture beneath the world. Each hypha grows by extending its tip, releasing enzymes that soften the material ahead. It dissolves barriers rather than breaking through them. The cell walls stretch forward, enclosing new space, while the rear portions stabilize and thicken. The pattern is subtle but constant, like the slow rise of tide through sand. The direction of growth changes according to conditions. More food in one area, more space in another, and so the network shifts, adjusts, and reforms itself without pause. Mycelium never rests. It continues its work at a pace so slow that only time itself can perceive its progress. In the forest, these filaments intertwine with roots, stones, and particles of organic matter. They bind soil together, holding it in a gentle structure that prevents erosion and retains moisture. Each strand serves both its own life and the life around it. Mycelium connects plant roots to one another, forming bridges through which water, minerals, and chemical messages can travel. Through this hidden lattice, the forest becomes a single, breathing body. Trees separated by meters of soil can share nutrients. Seedlings in the shade receive what they cannot yet make for themselves. Even a fallen tree remains part of the network long after it has stopped growing. The structure of mycelium is both fragile and enduring. A single footprint can crush a portion of it, yet the damage is temporary. The network heals by redirecting growth, reconnecting broken filaments, and forming new pathways. It does not resist disturbance with strength. It overcomes it with flexibility. The pattern repeats endlessly: growth, contact, exchange, renewal. In this rhythm lies its power. There is no central command, no single point of control, yet the entire system behaves with purpose and coordination. It follows chemical gradients, responding to need with remarkable precision, always in silence. The sheer scale of some mycelial colonies is almost beyond imagination. In a forest in Oregon, one individual fungus has spread over hundreds of acres, existing for thousands of years. Each part of it, each cell, remains connected to the others through continuous strands of cytoplasm. If touched, the signal of that contact would slowly move outward, like a ripple across still water. The organism breathes, digests, and grows as one entity, ancient, continuous, and unnoticed. It does not rise like a tree or bloom like a flower, but its presence sustains the entire ecosystem that rests upon it. Within this network, communication happens without words, without noise. It is chemical and rhythmic. When one area of the mycelium encounters abundance, it shares. When another faces scarcity, it receives. Nutrients move along microscopic channels, guided by differences in concentration and the subtle pulse of internal pressure. This slow exchange maintains balance. It ensures that no part of the network remains isolated or deprived. The process is deliberate and unending, each filament serving the whole, each cell contributing to the quiet endurance of the organism. The patterns found in mycelium mirror those seen in many natural systems. Lightning across a night sky, the branching of rivers, the structure of neural pathways, all follow the same logic of efficiency and connection. Mycelium, in this way, reflects a universal principle: that life organizes itself through repetition and branching, not through speed or noise. It forms paths of least resistance, extending only where necessary, conserving energy in every movement. There is elegance in its simplicity, beauty in its restraint. In the world of fungi, there are no wasted motions. Every fragment that extends into soil serves a purpose. Every molecule broken down becomes part of the larger cycle. And because mycelium exists mostly unseen, it invites stillness from those who imagine it. To understand its nature is to slow one's own pace, to imagine thousands of filaments moving invisibly beneath a forest floor, exchanging elements, building balance, and doing so without sound or interruption. Over time, as seasons change and layers of leaves fall and decay, the mycelium continues its quiet work. It rebuilds itself from fragments, passes through generations without division, and carries within it the memory of countless cycles of growth and return. Beneath every patch of moss, beneath every tree root, there lies a living network that holds the earth together. The hyphae are not separate from the soil. They are its living thread. Through them, the ground beneath us breathes, unites, and endures, ancient, unseen, and infinite in patience. Deep beneath the forest floor, something extraordinary happens that almost no one sees. Beneath roots and stones, under layers of fallen leaves, a system of communication quietly connects one tree to another. This system is built and maintained by fungi. Through fine threads of mycelium, trees share what they have, support the weak, and balance the life of the forest. Scientists call it the wood wide web, but it is far older, slower, and more deliberate than anything humans have made. It is nature's quiet conversation, one that has continued for millions of years without sound. Every tree, no matter how tall or ancient, relies on this underground network. A single oak or pine, for example, might be linked to dozens of others by fungal threads. These connections allow it to send or receive nutrients as needed. When a tree in shade cannot make enough sugar through photosynthesis, the trees in sunlight send help through the mycelium. When disease or drought affects one part of the forest, chemical messages travel underground long before leaves above begin to change. There is no voice, no signal that a human ear could hear, yet something passes between them, an awareness built through chemistry and patience. The process begins at the root tips. There, fungi and plants form a mutual bond. The fungal hyphae wrap gently around the roots, sometimes even entering them. This partnership is called a mycorrhizal relationship, and it benefits both. The fungus gains carbohydrates produced by the tree. In return, the tree receives minerals and water that the fungus collects from distant soil. The threads of mycelium reach far beyond where roots can travel, absorbing nutrients from even the poorest ground. It is a system of exchange, not of dominance. The fungus does not command. It serves. The tree does not control. It trusts. Together, they create balance that neither could achieve alone. In this network, generosity is not a choice. It is a natural law. A strong, mature tree may provide sugars to a sapling shaded beneath its canopy. A dying tree, before it fades, can transfer its remaining resources to others through the fungal web. In this way, no tree truly stands alone. The forest behaves like one living body, its strength shared evenly, its needs communicated quietly. Each exchange is slow and steady, carried through threads finer than a strand of hair, following gradients of concentration like water flowing downhill. Over hours or days, what was once part of one being becomes part of another. It is a gentle redistribution of life. The wood wide web also carries warning signals. When insects chew through leaves, or disease spreads in bark, the affected tree releases chemical cues into the soil. These signals travel through the fungal network, alerting nearby trees. Those neighbors then begin to produce defensive compounds before the threat reaches them. The process has no speed, no urgency by human measure. It unfolds at a pace that belongs only to the forest, unhurried, patient, precise. Each molecule travels through the soil as though time itself had slowed to match the rhythm of roots and rain. In winter, when growth above ground pauses, the underground conversation continues. Nutrients move in slow waves, balancing what remains in the frozen soil. The mycelium does not sleep. It endures. Even under snow, beneath ice, the silent network holds the memory of summer's abundance. When warmth returns, the stored energy flows upward again, feeding the buds that will unfold into leaves. The forest begins anew, but its renewal depends on what occurred unseen, in the quiet months below the frost line. For humans, the idea that trees might communicate feels almost poetic. Yet for fungi, it is simply their nature. They exist to connect, to distribute, to maintain balance. Their threads move through soil the way thoughts move through a mind. Slowly, invisibly, but with intention. The forest does not think in words, yet it remembers. It does not plan, yet it adjusts. Through the wood-wide web, life organizes itself without leadership or command. Each element contributes to the whole, following laws older than sunlight and older than the soil itself. Every time a tree grows, fungi grow with it. Every time a leaf falls, they take it apart molecule by molecule, returning its essence to the ground. The same network that feeds the living also reclaims the dead. There is no separation between creation and decay, no line between what gives and what receives. Through this continuous exchange, the forest remains balanced, whole, and calm. In the silence of this system lies a form of wisdom. Nothing rushes. Nothing competes for attention. The work of connection happens slowly, constantly, with no desire for recognition. The fungal threads do not seek to stand out. They remain beneath everything, patient and necessary, ensuring that the rhythm of life continues without interruption. In the wood-wide web, all things are part of one enduring conversation, an endless flow of giving and receiving beneath the surface of the world. Beneath every forest and field, a quiet transformation takes place, a slow chemistry that never ends. Fungi are the chemists of the soil, carrying out reactions that shape the world we live on. They dissolve wood and leaf, bark and bone, turning what was once living into a gentle dust that nourishes life again. This is not a violent process, nor a quick one. It unfolds grain by grain, molecule by molecule, until even the hardest material becomes soft and part of the earth. Every piece of organic matter that falls to the ground begins a journey through decay. Rain moistens the leaves, insects pass by, and eventually fungi arrive. Their filaments spread through the material, releasing enzymes that begin to break it apart. The complex structures of life, cellulose, lignin, protein, slowly unwind. Each bond that held a plant upright or gave an animal strength becomes loose and delicate. Carbon is freed, nitrogen released, and minerals return to the soil. What began as a tree, a flower, or a blade of grass becomes once again a part of the earth from which it came. The chemistry is patient. It requires neither sunlight nor motion, only time and moisture. Some fungi work quickly, transforming a fallen leaf in a matter of weeks. Others labor for years, digesting a tree trunk until it softens and collapses. Each species has its own rhythm. Some specialize in breaking down the strong fibers of wood. Others dissolve softer materials like fruit or soil litter. Together they maintain a steady cycle of renewal. The forest floor, rich and dark, is their work, the accumulated result of countless small reactions, none hurried, all essential. In the soil, the process continues invisibly. The molecules released by fungi feed bacteria, which in turn produce new compounds that feed plants. It is an endless exchange, a chemical dialogue with no beginning and no end. Every handful of earth holds the memory of thousands of seasons. Within it are traces of every root, every fallen leaf, every life that once passed through. The air above smells faintly of it. A quiet scent of damp wood and renewal, the signature of fungal work that never truly stops. Even stone yields in time to this chemistry. Some fungi secrete acids that slowly dissolve minerals, releasing trace elements needed by other forms of life. They live on the surface of rocks, in crevices on mountain faces, in places where almost nothing else can survive. Their work is gradual and unseen, carving the foundations of new soil one particle at a time. The cliffs, the riverbeds, the ancient hills, all are shaped in part by the persistent, silent reactions of fungi. There is order in this slowness. Each reaction follows the next in predictable rhythm, governed by moisture, temperature, and time. There are no sudden shifts, no bursts of color or heat, only the gradual balancing of what is and what has been. Fungi never waste energy. They act only when conditions are right. When the air is too dry, they wait. When the temperature cools, they pause. When rain returns, they awaken and continue as if no time has passed. Their patience allows the earth to remain stable. They measure time not in days, but in the turning of seasons, in the quiet layers of humus forming beneath their reach. Through this chemistry, they also purify. As they decompose, fungi trap harmful elements, converting toxins into simpler, harmless forms. Oil, plastic, and even heavy metals can be broken down by certain species. They restore balance to contaminated ground, not through force but through steady transformation. In this way, they cleanse as they feed, renewing not just the forest but the health of the planet itself. The slow chemistry of soil is the heartbeat of ecosystems. It keeps rivers clear, forests fertile, and air breathable. Without it, leaves would pile endlessly, and decay would halt. The quiet actions of fungi ensure that life's waste becomes life's foundation. Every tree that grows upward depends on what happens below, the decomposition of old roots, the softening of fallen bark, the invisible conversion of the dead into the living. As dusk falls and the forest darkens, the work continues unchanged. Beneath the still air, within the damp earth, the threads of mycelium keep moving, spreading, and dissolving. The rhythm of their chemistry does not rest. It is the calm persistence of nature itself. Slow, constant, reassuring. Each reaction, no matter how small, contributes to the quiet renewal of the world. The soil beneath our feet, soft and fragrant, is not simply ground. It is the product of endless patience, the final result of fungal alchemy that transforms endings into beginnings. In its silence, it tells the story of time itself, that nothing truly disappears, and that even in stillness, the world is always becoming something new. The forest above may change with every passing season, but beneath it, the fungal world remains steady. It has no need for haste, no reason to chase the shifting patterns of light. Continues in stillness, working with the same patience it has held for millions of years. The quiet kingdom beneath our feet endures not through strength, but through constancy, the kind of persistence that outlasts mountains, forests, and civilizations alike. Each fallen leaf that lands on the forest floor is received by this kingdom without ceremony. It becomes part of a process that has no beginning and no end. The thin layer of soil beneath that leaf is alive with activity too slow to see. Threads of mycelium pass beneath it, moving carefully, absorbing what they need, leaving behind what others will use. In this cycle, everything is temporary, yet nothing is lost. The same molecules that once made up a towering tree will one day nourish a seedling just beginning its quiet rise toward the light. The scale of this hidden world defies imagination. Under every step, there may be kilometers of mycelial threads. Under every forest, there may be networks older than the trees themselves. In the dark, they move without hurry, finding balance between decay and renewal. The roots of every plant, the worms that tunnel through the earth, the smallest grains of sand, all are touched by this unseen presence. The soil is not a collection of parts. It is a single, continuous body of life. The chemistry of decay that fungi guide is also the chemistry of creation. The soil they build sustains not only forests, but crops, grasslands, and even the air we breathe. Every blade of grass that grows owes its strength to the decomposition of what came before. Even the oceans, vast and distant, depend on the nutrients fungi return to rivers and rain. Their reach is quiet but complete. Fungi hold the world together in ways we rarely consider. When roots grip the soil, it is often mycelium that binds them. When seeds germinate, it is fungi that help them find the minerals they need. Even the hum of insects, the calls of birds, and the quiet breath of animals trace their origins to this invisible foundation. Without it, the surface world would collapse into disorder, its energy trapped within lifeless matter. The stillness of the fungal world is not emptiness. It is the calm of completion, a system that needs no improvement, no rush, no ambition. It performs its task endlessly, the same today as it was in the ancient forests before humans existed. The same patient work continues under modern cities, under paved roads and gardens, under the forgotten corners of farmland. Concrete may cover the earth, but beneath it, in the smallest cracks, fungi continue their slow and necessary labor. They do not seek recognition. Their work is anonymous, their presence subtle. Yet they hold the quiet power to transform everything. Each fallen branch that softens into dust, each old tree that feeds a young one, each handful of fertile earth, all are their doing. Life above relies on the death below, and fungi stand between the two, translating one into the other. When the forest sleeps in winter, when snow muffles every sound, the kingdom beneath remains alive. Its reactions slow, but they never stop. The same chemical exchanges continue beneath the frost, waiting for warmth to return. When it does, the network resumes with perfect rhythm, as though no pause had ever occurred. The forest blooms again, unaware that its renewal began months before, in silence, in darkness, in the patient work of fungi. If one could see through the soil, it might resemble a vast constellation. Thin, glowing threads stretching endlessly in all directions, touching every root, every stone, every trace of life. But it would not shimmer with brilliance. It would glow faintly, like embers, calm, constant, enduring. That is the nature of this kingdom, to illuminate not through brightness, but through persistence. And so, while the world above changes, ages and fades, the quiet kingdom beneath our feet remains. It does not announce itself. It does not hurry. It endures in stillness, holding together the fabric of life, one invisible thread at a time. Fungi have existed for so long that time itself seems to move at their pace. Long before forests covered the land, before leaves and flowers appeared, their ancestors were already at work, dissolving rock and preparing the soil that future life would need. The kingdom beneath our feet is ancient beyond comprehension, its origins reaching back to when the continents were still barren and the air held almost no oxygen. In those early ages, when sunlight fell on a lifeless shore, fungi were among the first to claim the ground, feeding on what the sea had left behind. Their story begins hundreds of millions of years before trees appeared. The first fungi lived in water, drifting through primordial seas. They fed on organic matter that settled to the ocean floor, their filaments spreading through silt and sediment. These were not the familiar mushrooms of today, but simpler forms, soft and thread-like, built to dissolve rather than to grow tall. They were the quiet pioneers of decomposition, transforming the remains of early life into new foundations for what would follow. When plants began their slow journey from sea to land, fungi went with them. The soil was thin and poor then, composed mostly of rock and dust. To survive, the earliest plants needed help drawing nutrients from their surroundings. Fungi offered that help. They formed partnerships with roots, sharing resources through intimate contact. In return, they received the sugars the plants created through photosynthesis. This ancient exchange continues today in nearly every plant on Earth. It was this cooperation, not competition, that made the land green. Fossil evidence shows the mark of fungi etched into stone, microscopic threads preserved within ancient sediments. Some of these fossils are nearly 1 billion years old. Others, known as prototaxites, once rose from the ground as towering columns, perhaps meters tall, long before trees existed to shade them. To the world of that time, they might have seemed like pillars, silent and unchanging, guardians of an empty landscape. These early giants fed on decaying matter, slowly turning the barren terrain into fertile soil. Through their patient chemistry, they shaped the future of life on land. The evolution of fungi is not a story of conquest, but of adaptation. They did not dominate their environment through force or speed. Instead, they found a niche where no other life could thrive. In decay, in darkness, in the quiet margins where life meets death. Through countless ages, they perfected the art of transformation. When climates changed, they endured. When forests rose and fell, they remained. When fire swept across plains, they waited beneath the ashes for the world to cool again. Their diversity expanded with time. Some learned to live in partnership with algae, forming lichens that could colonize bare rock and withstand extremes of cold and dryness. Others became decomposers, feeding on fallen wood and leaves. A few turned to parasitism, feeding on living plants and insects, playing their part in the balance of ecosystems. Across every adaptation, their nature stayed the same, silent, patient, and essential. As animals appeared and evolved, fungi continued their quiet work. They digested bones, feathers, and shells, making room for new life. They crept into caves and mountains, into tundra and desert. Even in the deepest reaches of the ocean, on the seafloor where no sunlight has ever reached, fungal species endure, feeding on the slow rain of organic matter that drifts down from above. The story of fungi is not measured in moments, but in eras. They were here before flowers opened, before insects buzzed, before vertebrates walked on land. They have witnessed every extinction, every return. When glaciers carved the earth, they retreated with the cold. When the ice melted, they followed the forests north again. Nothing in their existence is hurried. Their strength lies in their ability to persist, to wait, and to rebuild. If we could trace their lineage from the first filament to the vast networks beneath today's forests, it would form an unbroken thread of life, older than most mountains, longer than any river. The soil we stand on is the product of that endurance. Every field, every forest, every green place that exists does so because fungi were there first, preparing the ground in silence. And so the world we know rests upon their legacy. The calm persistence of the fungal kingdom has shaped every landscape, nourished every generation, and connected the living with the dead in one continuous, balanced cycle. Time passes above, civilizations rise and fall, but beneath it all, the ancient chemistry of fungi continues. Unchanged, unhurried, eternal. Over millions of years, fungi evolved alongside plants, forming a partnership that changed the planet. Before there were tall trees or green meadows, the world's surface was harsh and bare. The soil lacked the nutrients needed to sustain complex life. It was the fungi that began to alter this barren ground, their filaments spreading through cracks in rock, releasing acids that dissolved minerals, slowly creating the first fertile layers. This gradual transformation turned lifeless terrain into the foundation from which forests would later rise. When the earliest plants appeared, their roots were small and fragile. They could not reach far into the earth or draw enough nutrients to grow strong. The fungi, already established underground, joined with these roots in a quiet exchange. They wrapped themselves around the roots, sometimes even entering the cells, creating a connection that allowed both to survive. The plant offered the fungus sugars made from sunlight. In return, the fungus shared water and minerals drawn from the soil. This partnership, known as mycorrhiza, became one of the most important alliances in the history of life. Through this connection, plants began to thrive in places they never could before. They reached deeper into the ground, grew taller toward the light, and spread across continents. Every forest that has ever existed has depended on this unseen bond. Even now, more than 9 out of 10 plant species maintain it. Beneath the surface, mycelial threads still wind through roots, repeating a relationship that has remained unchanged for over 400 million years. This cooperation did not happen quickly. It evolved through countless generations, guided by the slow balance of give and take. Neither fungus nor plant dominates the other. Each provides what the other cannot. It is a quiet economy of nature, one built on trust, exchange, and patience. The forest above ground is only half the story. Beneath it lies a vast and ancient network of partnership that allows everything to endure. Fungi also learned to adapt beyond these alliances. Some became decomposers, recycling the remains of what once lived. Others became symbionts, living within roots, bark, or leaves, protecting their hosts from disease or drought. A few turned to parasitism, feeding on living tissue to sustain themselves. Each role serves a purpose. The diversity of fungi is so great that they occupy nearly every ecological niche imaginable. They grow in ice and desert, in saltwater and stone, in the air we breathe and the soil beneath us. Through these adaptations, fungi became the quiet engineers of ecosystems. They link the living and the dead, the plant and the soil, the light above and the darkness below. Their work is invisible but constant. Even when trees fall and rot, when grass turns to dust, fungi continue the process of renewal. They ensure that every element returns to the cycle, that nothing is wasted, and that balance is maintained. Fossil records show their mark through every geological era. The fine patterns of ancient mycelium are preserved in stone, each filament a record of patience. Some are found near the roots of early plants, confirming that their bond existed even then. Others are found within petrified wood or embedded in ancient soils, proof that fungi have always lived at the edge between life and decay. These remains, quiet and precise, tell the same story repeated for hundreds of millions of years. A story not of conquest but of endurance. As Earth's climate shifted through ice ages and warm periods, fungi never disappeared. When glaciers scraped away forests, they survived beneath the frozen ground. When the ice retreated, They were the first to reclaim the soil, releasing nutrients for the returning plants. Their persistence shaped the landscapes we see today. Hills, valleys, and meadows all carry their quiet influence. The evolution of fungi mirrors the rhythm of time itself, steady, circular, and continuous. They do not create in sudden bursts. They build slowly, layer by layer, through cycles of growth and decay. In their patience lies their strength. Long after the tallest trees have fallen and new forests have taken root, the same fungal networks continue their unseen work, connecting generations of life through the chemistry of renewal. And so, through silence and endurance, fungi became the foundation of the living world. Their partnerships made the land fertile. Their decomposition made it rich. Their patience made it stable. Every living thing that grows above the soil carries, in some way, the legacy of this ancient collaboration. The world as we know it, green, breathing, and alive, rests upon the slow, tireless work of the kingdom beneath our feet. Over time, the partnership between fungi and plants grew more complex, more intertwined, and more essential. The simple roots of early vegetation developed into elaborate systems of exchange, each thread of mycelium linking to thousands of root hairs, each connection forming another point in the endless conversation between earth and life. The forest became a living network, and at its foundation was fungus, the silent intermediary between soil and sky. In the earliest ecosystems, plants depended entirely on these fungal partners to survive. The soil, still young and nutrient-poor, offered little on its own. It was through fungi that water, phosphorus, and trace minerals reached the roots. Without them, the plants could not have built the dense canopies or vast grasslands that would later reshape the planet. And so, over millions of years, this quiet alliance strengthened. The trees grew taller, the fungi spread farther, and the two kingdoms, one rooted in sunlight, the other in shadow, became inseparable. Even now, the relationship continues in silence. When a seed falls to the ground, the first contact it makes after germination is often fungal. Before its leaves open, before it ever reaches light, its roots form bonds underground. It begins its life in darkness, nourished by a network that predates it by hundreds of millions of years. This unseen support allows it to rise, leaf by leaf, into the open air. Every forest that sways in the wind, every meadow that ripples beneath the sky, depends on this same quiet beginning. The exchange between fungi and plants is precise, mathematical in its balance. The plant provides sugars carefully measured to feed the fungal network. The fungus, in turn, transfers minerals in equal measure, never hoarding more than it needs. This balance maintains the stability of ecosystems. It allows nutrients to circulate without waste, without greed. Nothing moves quickly, yet everything moves continuously. The slowness is part of the design. Over time, the architecture of the underground network became more intricate. The hyphae spread outward, branching in every direction, forming dense webs that connected not just one tree but entire forests. These networks grew so extensive that one organism could stretch across kilometers, forming colonies that lived for centuries. Every filament contributed to a greater whole, every exchange feeding a system that was both delicate and vast. The chemistry of this relationship extends far beyond what the eye can see. When a plant struggles, when drought tightens the soil or disease threatens its roots, fungi respond. They transfer water, redistribute nutrients, and even alter the microbial balance of the surrounding ground. They sense chemical changes in their environment, adjusting without noise or motion. Their reactions unfold slowly, predictably, with the calm precision of a pulse that never falters. This mutual dependence became one of the defining features of life on land. It allowed ecosystems to endure drought, flood, and fire. After a forest burns, fungi are among the first to return, breaking down the ash, preparing the soil for seeds that will sprout again. The cycle repeats endlessly, each generation of trees rising from the remains of the one before, always supported by the same patient network below. The fossils of ancient forests tell this story clearly. The marks of hyphae and spores appear alongside the impressions of roots, preserved together in stone. Even in petrified wood, traces of fungal filaments remain, winding through the grain as if frozen mid-growth. These patterns are the record of cooperation, the history of life written in mineral and silence. Modern science continues to reveal how deep this connection runs. Studies show that trees of different species, sometimes separated by great distances, exchange carbon and nitrogen through shared fungal links. A maple may feed a fir, a birch may sustain a pine. Age, size, and species matter little. The mycelium connects them all, blurring the boundaries between individual organisms. The forest behaves less like a collection of trees and more like a single organism, a slow, breathing entity whose thoughts move through fungal threads. The roots of this system lie in the earliest experiments of life on land, in the patient chemistry of fungi that refuse to vanish. It is because of them that the barren rock of ancient earth became fertile, that deserts turned to fields, that air filled with oxygen, and that the planet transformed from stone to soil. Their work continues now, unchanged, unnoticed, and vital. Above ground, the seasons move swiftly. Leaves grow and fall, branches reach and break, rains come and go. But beneath it all, the same slow exchanges continue, as they always have. The fungi wait, steady and faithful, turning the passage of time into nourishment, turning decay into life, turning the unseen into the foundation of everything that grows. Long before humans learned to till the soil or name the seasons, fungi had already perfected the art of endurance. Their world does not depend on the visible cycles that we recognize: sunrise and sunset, bloom and harvest. Their rhythm is deeper, older, and slower. It follows the quiet flow of nutrients through the earth, the steady decay of fallen matter, the gradual renewal that occurs far below the surface. While the surface of the planet changes, eroded by wind, reshaped by rain, reclaimed by roots, the fungal realm continues its work without pause. Beneath the ground, the same patterns repeat endlessly. Hyphae branch, connect, and fuse. Spores drift through pockets of air in the soil, finding new places to grow. Decaying leaves and roots dissolve into fragments, their molecules drawn into new forms of life. The entire system functions with a patience that no other organism can match. Fungi do not need to rush, because time itself seems to move in their favor. They measure progress not in moments, but in the slow accumulation of balance. The endurance of fungi lies in their adaptability. When drought dries the soil, they retreat into dormancy, sealing their filaments with protective walls until the rain returns. When fire burns across a forest, their spores survive in the heat, waiting for the ash to cool and the ground to soften. When ice covers the land, they remain beneath it, preserving their chemistry until warmth awakens them again. They have no fear of scarcity or silence. They have lived through every climate, every change the earth has endured, and have continued to thrive in stillness. This ability to wait has made them among the planet's oldest survivors. In ancient permafrost, scientists have found fungal spores that remained viable for tens of thousands of years. Once thawed, they began to grow again, as though no time had passed. In volcanic soil, where heat and minerals make life difficult, new fungal networks emerge within days. In deserts, microscopic fungi cling to the undersides of stones, drawing faint traces of moisture from the air. Their resilience is quiet but absolute. Even within other organisms, fungi find ways to persist. Some live peacefully inside plant tissues, strengthening their hosts from within. Others exist in animals, including humans, as harmless companions. A few become opportunists, taking advantage of weakness or decay. In every case, they remain consistent in their purpose, to use what is available to transform it and to continue the cycle. Their existence blurs the line between independence and cooperation, between life and the materials that feed it. In human history, fungi have witnessed everything. They grew in the forests that surrounded early villages, in the soil that supported the first fields. They fed the trees that built ancient ships, the crops that sustained civilizations, the grass beneath the hooves of herds. They outlasted empires, endured plagues, and continued through every quiet age between. When cities rose from stone, they found homes in the cracks of walls, the damp corners of cellars, and the shadows of forgotten places. Their world has always coexisted with ours, unaffected by our pace, untouched by our noise. What sets fungi apart is not only their endurance, but their indifference to time. They do not seek to change quickly or to conquer. Their power lies in persistence. The same reactions that shaped ancient forests still occur in today's gardens, beneath pavements, and under the floors of modern homes. The same quiet chemistry continues without interruption, maintaining the planet's balance. If one were to observe a patch of soil for centuries, one might see how fungi weave the past and present together. The remains of old roots would fade into humus. The dust of that humus would feed new seedlings, and the cycle would begin again. Nothing dramatic would occur, yet everything essential would. Life would continue not through speed or struggle, but through constancy. It is easy to overlook what moves so slowly. But fungi remind us that the foundation of life is not found in the visible rush of growth, but in the patience beneath it. Their work is the quiet architecture of existence, the unseen rhythm that sustains every forest, every field, every breath. While all else rises and falls, fungi remain, holding the world together in silence. The endurance of fungi extends not only through time, but through depth. Their presence reaches into layers of earth that have never seen the sky. Deep underground, far below the reach of roots, fungi continue their slow work in the dark. In caves, in the cracks of stones, and along the mineral veins of mountains, they persist where almost nothing else can. They feed on traces of organic matter left behind by water, bacteria, or the slow decay of ancient life. They are not bound to the surface. They inhabit the unseen layers of the planet, linking its crust to its skin. In the deepest soils, fungal filaments form delicate webs around grains of sand and fragments of rock. These filaments release subtle acids, dissolving the minerals bit by bit. From this slow erosion, nutrients are freed: calcium, magnesium, iron, phosphorus, the building blocks of future life. These minerals move upward, carried by water through the soil, where roots and plants eventually absorb them. Without this quiet geological labor, the surface of the earth would grow poor and lifeless over time. Fungi, patient and invisible, ensure that the balance between stone and soil remains unbroken. In this way, fungi act as the bridge between the living and the inert. They take what seems still and bring it back into motion, turning hard rock into the soft foundation of life. The process is continuous but imperceptible. Centuries may pass before the effects of their chemistry become visible. Yet, in those long spans, entire ecosystems depend on the quiet transformation taking place far below. The fungi that inhabit the deep earth are different from those that live near the surface. They move slowly, requiring little energy, sometimes surviving on almost nothing. They may remain dormant for years, only to awaken when moisture or warmth returns. Their filaments grow along veins of minerals as rivers follow their channels. Each molecule they release or absorb contributes to the gradual renewal of the world above. Their existence reminds us that life is not limited by light or air. It can persist wherever balance allows, in darkness, in stillness, in stone. This deep activity connects to the surface in subtle ways. The nutrients released below feed the roots of forests, which in turn support the plants that feed animals and humans. Rain carries particles upward. Wind spreads spores across continents. The cycle is not separate. It is one continuous exchange from the depths of rock to the edge of the atmosphere. What begins in silence, buried in darkness, ends in the movement of leaves, the breath of air, the rhythm of rain. Even in human structures, fungi replicate this quiet connection. They live in the mortar between bricks, in the damp wood of basements, in the smallest cracks where water gathers. They do not discriminate between natural and artificial environments. To them, every place is simply another layer of the same earth. Their chemistry remains the same: to dissolve, to rebuild, to connect. What we see as decay is, in truth, their contribution to balance. Through these cycles, the world remains alive in every direction: upward toward the sky, outward across the land, and inward toward the core of the earth. The movement of fungi within this structure is slow but constant. It is not the movement of creatures or the pulse of blood, but the steady flow of elements that defines the continuity of life. Every handful of soil, every stone smoothed by time, every forest that returns after fire, all are shaped by the same quiet persistence. When we walk through a forest, we move over layers of history that fungi have built and rebuilt for ages. The ground is not just dirt. It is a living memory of what has come before. Beneath each step lies a web of life older than any tree or river, stretching downward into depths where light has never existed. The surface world may change with seasons and centuries, but the deep fungal network endures, silent, unseen, essential. In this way, the kingdom beneath us is not confined to biology alone. It is geological, chemical, and temporal. Connects the ancient with the living, the hard with the soft, the visible with the hidden. Through endless patience, it turns stone to soil, decay to life, and time to continuity. Beneath the weight of mountains and the stillness of forests, fungi continue their slow, eternal dialogue with the earth, a conversation of minerals and molecules that never needs to end. The patience of fungi shapes not only the ground beneath us but also the quiet air we breathe. In the vast cycle of life, they are both the end and the beginning. When plants and animals complete their time, fungi take what remains and release it back into motion. They decompose fallen trees, lost leaves, and forgotten creatures, turning their substance into nutrients and gases that return to the atmosphere. Through this process, the air itself becomes part of their silent work. Each breath we take carries the faint traces of their labor. Molecules once held in soil, now suspended in invisible balance. This transformation happens everywhere, from the densest forests to the thinnest layer of city dust. Fungi break down carbon-rich material and release carbon dioxide, completing the exchange that plants began through photosynthesis. In doing so, they close the circle of life. Their activity determines how fertile the soil will be, how much carbon remains in the ground, and how much returns to the sky. They are not only recyclers of matter but regulators of atmosphere. The climate, the growth of forests, and the composition of the air all depend, in quiet ways, on the chemistry of their decay. In tropical forests, this process moves quickly. Warmth and moisture encourage an endless cycle of growth and decomposition. A fallen branch may disappear in weeks, its carbon scattered among new roots and the surrounding air. In colder climates, the pace slows, but the principle remains the same. Fungi continue their work beneath snow and frost, preserving balance in silence. The rhythm never stops. It simply adjusts to the temperature of the earth. Every fragment of wood, every handful of humus, holds millions of fungal cells working together in harmony. They do not compete, they coordinate. Different species specialize in different materials, one dissolving lignin, another digesting cellulose, another releasing nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. Each performs a task that, though invisible, sustains the rest. The collaboration is so complete that no single fungus could survive alone for long. It is the diversity that keeps the soil alive. This silent division of labor can last for centuries. A fallen tree in a dense forest might feed generations of fungi before it disappears entirely. As they consume it, the log softens, crumbles, and merges with the earth. From that same spot, new saplings grow. In time, their roots spread through the soil, touching the same threads of mycelium that once dissolved the tree that came before. The ground becomes layered with memory, the past nourishing the present preparing the way for the future. Even in death, fungi preserve the stillness of life. Their work is slow and measured, their results enduring. The forest depends on their calm precision, their lack of urgency. Without them, leaves would pile endlessly, trunks would remain upright long after life had left them, and nutrients would become trapped. The world would stagnate. It is through decay that balance is maintained. In the deeper soil, where air grows thin, other species continue the process. They operate in near darkness, breaking down the final remnants of organic matter. Each reaction releases the simplest molecules, carbon dioxide, water, and minerals, returning the earth to its basic elements. What once lived becomes indistinguishable from the soil itself, absorbed back into the endless cycle. This chemistry extends beyond forests. In grasslands, fungi break down the roots and stems of plants after seasonal die-off, keeping the plains fertile. In wetlands, they manage the slow decomposition of reeds and mosses, controlling how much carbon escapes and how much stays buried. Even the tundra, frozen for most of the year, holds fungal life waiting beneath the ice, ready to resume its patient work the moment warmth returns. Fungi remind us that nothing in nature is wasted. Their role in decay is not destruction but transformation. Through them, death loses its finality and becomes part of the quiet motion of the planet. The trees that fall become the soil that feeds new growth. The matter that breaks apart becomes the air that sustains every living thing. It is a calm, endless exchange, one that continues whether we notice or not, whether we exist or not. Every breath, every gust of wind, Every drifting seed is part of this quiet process. Through fungi, the world renews itself without ceremony, without sound. The balance they maintain is invisible but absolute. They are the quiet translators between what ends and what begins, the unseen breath of the earth, forever exhaling and inhaling in perfect, patient rhythm. Through every stage of the planet's history, fungi have carried on their quiet duty, connecting what is alive with what has passed, renewing the world with each invisible breath. The deeper one looks into their story, the clearer it becomes that they are not simply participants in nature but its quiet architects. They hold the threads of continuity between generations of life, stitching the fabric of existence one molecule at a time. What makes this kingdom remarkable is not just its endurance, but its humility. Fungi have shaped the planet without ever dominating it. They never needed to conquer or compete for attention. Their strength lies in cooperation, in subtle chemistry, in the patience to wait for things to fall, dissolve, and begin again. Their existence depends not on light or movement, but on the steady balance of giving and receiving. In this way, they have persisted longer than most forms of life, adapting to every age the earth has known. The evidence of their patience lies beneath our feet, in the deep layers of soil built over countless millennia. Each stratum holds traces of old forests, long vanished, their remains quietly converted by fungi into rich, fertile ground. Every grain of that soil tells a story of transformation, of wood softened into humus, of roots turned to dust, of time slowed to its gentlest rhythm. Even the stones within it carry their marks, faint etchings of mycelial filaments that once threaded through them like veins of memory. Their work is quiet but vast. In a handful of soil, there may be kilometers of fungal threads. These threads move through particles of sand and clay, joining them together into the structure that allows air and water to flow. Without this binding, the ground would crumble and wash away. It is fungi that give the soil its shape, its softness, and its ability to breathe. Beneath every meadow, every garden, every stretch of farmland, this same invisible labor continues, slow, consistent, and perfectly timed to the rhythm of decay. Their patience extends beyond the soil and into the bodies of living things. Inside the roots of trees, within the tissues of leaves and bark, fungi live as quiet tenants, helping their hosts to draw nutrients and endure stress. In return, they receive a small portion of the plant's energy. These exchanges are so common that they define life itself. It is not exaggeration to say that every living thing, in some form, is touched by fungi, supported, fed, or eventually returned to the earth through their care. Fungi also form partnerships that cross the boundaries of kingdoms. Lichens, for example, are alliances between fungi and algae, a merging of shadow and light. The algae creates sugars through photosynthesis, while the fungus provides structure and protection. Together, they live where few others can, on cliffs, on bark, on the surface of rocks where rain is rare and soil non-existent. They endure drought, heat, and cold, holding on to bare stone until, grain by grain, they create the first traces of soil. Through them, life expands into places once thought empty. Even now, as the modern world transforms landscapes faster than nature's rhythm, fungi remain unchanged in purpose. They grow in the cracks of sidewalks, in the damp corners of walls, in forgotten spaces where moisture and dust collect. Their persistence is indifferent to human progress. They simply continue, adapting to whatever conditions exist. For them, there is no concept of ending, only change. What they teach, in their quiet and tireless way, is that renewal does not depend on speed or visibility. It depends on patience. Every structure, every forest, every life form eventually returns to the same gentle process. The slow surrender to fungi, and through them to the earth. Decay in their world is not failure. It is fulfillment. It is the completion of a cycle that began before time was measured. When one looks across a landscape, the tall trees, the scattered stones, the faint mist rising from the ground, it is easy to forget that all of it rests upon a foundation built by these unseen architects. The air that sustains us, the soil that feeds us, the balance that makes life possible. All are shaped by their chemistry, their structure, and their patience. In the stillness of night, when everything seems quiet, their work continues without interruption. Beneath the roots, beneath the stones, within every breath of wind carrying the scent of soil, fungi remain. They connect what has been with what will be, forming the calm, eternal rhythm that keeps the world whole. If one could look beneath the surface of the world without breaking it open, the sight would resemble a universe made of threads. Each filament, delicate as hair, reaches toward another, forming bridges across soil and stone. Together, they create a quiet map of connection. A network that mirrors the branching of trees above, the flow of rivers, and even the pathways of thought within the human mind. This vast web, spun by fungi, holds the planet's living systems together. It is a language of contact, unspoken yet constant, linking the smallest seedling to the oldest tree. This connection does not happen in bursts of energy or sudden exchanges. It moves slowly, evenly like breath. Through this hidden network, nutrients pass from where they are plentiful to where they are needed most. Water travels along microscopic tunnels. Chemical messages drift between roots, warning of drought or disease. Everything that lives above ground depends on these silent transmissions below. The forest is not a collection of separate beings, but a single organism woven together by the patience of fungi. Each filament, called a hypha, carries a quiet intelligence. It senses where the soil is rich and where it is poor, where roots seek contact and where decay releases nourishment. It extends in the direction that offers balance, never wasting effort. Through this responsiveness, the network shapes itself to the land, adjusting to every slope and season. It behaves like a nervous system without a brain, a memory without words, a consciousness built from chemistry and time. When scientists trace the structure of mycelium, they often compare it to human-made systems, neural networks, transportation grids, the flow of data. But these analogies capture only the surface. Mycelium is older, slower, and wiser in its simplicity. It does not expand for growth's sake. It expands to maintain equilibrium. Where humans build systems to control, fungi create systems to connect. Their networks are not designed. They are felt, growing in response to need, not command. In the forest, this structure means that trees share what they have and receive what they lack. A young sapling in deep shade may be fed by a mature tree through the fungal web. When storms damage one part of the forest, the nutrients within dying roots are redistributed to others. When drought threatens, the network carries moisture to those in need. Nothing is wasted, and nothing is owned. Every resource moves toward balance. This quiet cooperation has no leader and no hierarchy. Each part exists for the whole, and the whole sustains each part. The system has endured because it is not built on competition but on exchange. It is patient, self-correcting, and endlessly adaptable. The longer it exists, the stronger it becomes, not through dominance but through connection. Even in times of destruction, fire, flood, or frost, the mycelial network survives beneath the surface. When trees fall, it absorbs their remains. When new seedlings rise, it feeds them. The threads persist in soil that may look lifeless to the eye, waiting for the moment conditions return to balance. It never rushes the process. Its purpose is not to rebuild quickly but to restore quietly, ensuring that life continues with steadiness, not speed. In this sense, fungi embody the Earth's memory. Their networks hold the chemical history of the land, what has grown there, what has died there, what nutrients have flowed, and in what measure. The soil remembers through them. A forest that regrows on old ground inherits not just its roots but its history. The fungi beneath guide that renewal, translating the remnants of the past into nourishment for what comes next. Every handful of earth contains this story. The threads beneath our feet are older than the paths we walk, older than the names we give to places. They stretch through centuries, connecting generations of life through the same quiet rhythm of exchange. The air above may shift, climates may change, but beneath it all, the web holds firm. A living structure of patience, purpose, and peace. In their silence, fungi demonstrate a truth that the surface world often forgets. Strength is not noise, and power is not speed. The world endures because of what happens slowly, the invisible connections that bind one life to another, one era to the next. The mycelial network does not seek to be seen. It simply continues, steady as the turning of the earth, holding everything together through the stillness of its touch. The deeper one follows these threads, the more the idea of separation begins to fade. Each organism, whether plant, animal, or fungus, exists as part of a larger whole, a pattern that repeats itself endlessly across scales. The same structure that allows mycelium to connect trees mirrors the flow of blood through veins, the branching of coral beneath the sea, and the pathways of lightning that cross the sky. Nature seems to favor this design. Branching, spreading, linking, never in straight lines but always in quiet expansion. Fungi, in their slow persistence, embody this principle more perfectly than anything else. Their networks remind us that individuality is often an illusion. A tree may appear to stand alone, but beneath the soil, it shares its energy and nutrients with countless others. A patch of moss may seem isolated on a stone, yet the fungi beneath connect it to the forest floor. Even fallen leaves, as they decompose, return their substance to the network, becoming part of the same slow exchange. To the fungal world, boundaries do not exist, only gradients, flows, and connections that shift with time. Within this system, there is no waste, no beginning, and no end. What one organism releases, another absorbs. What dies in one season becomes nourishment for the next. The forest becomes a living cycle of transformation, held together not by speed or strength but by the constant, patient labor of fungi. Their threads create the architecture of renewal, shaping life without ever being visible to those who depend on them. In this hidden web, every particle has meaning. The movement of a single nutrient molecule from one root to another may take hours or days, yet the process is continuous and complete. Each transfer contributes to balance, not perfection but stability, the kind that allows ecosystems to recover, to adjust, to endure. The network is never still, yet it never hurries. It exists in a rhythm beyond urgency, a tempo that mirrors the quiet pulse of the planet itself. Through this slow communication, the forest becomes something more than the sum of its parts. Trees older than centuries share with those only a few years old. When storms uproot a section of land, The mycelium extends toward the exposed roots, rebuilding the connection almost immediately. It is as though the forest remembers what was lost and sets about restoring it, guided by chemistry and patience. The living and the dead are never far apart here. They are merely different phases of the same process. The more scientists study this network, the more it reveals itself as both simple and profound. There are no central instructions, no hierarchy, no master system directing the exchange. The pattern emerges naturally, self-organizing, self-repairing, endlessly responsive. It is a form of intelligence that does not think, a form of communication that does not speak. Each filament follows the gradients of nutrients, yet together, they form patterns of astonishing efficiency. Nature's most complex systems, it seems, are built not from control but from cooperation. This quiet balance extends beyond the forest floor. Fields, wetlands, tundras, and even deserts host their own hidden webs. Each landscape carries a different rhythm, yet all share the same purpose: to turn stillness into continuity, to ensure that life, once begun, does not break. Beneath the dry crust of a desert, fungal threads sleep in the sand, waiting for rare rains. Beneath a frozen plain, they remain dormant, their slow metabolism enduring temperatures that would end most other forms of life. The world beneath is never empty. It is simply waiting. It is easy to forget that the ground itself is alive. To the human eye, soil may appear as simple dust, dry, dark, and silent. Yet beneath that surface, a vast society of microorganisms, roots, and fungi moves through cycles too slow to notice. It is a world that values patience over display, cooperation over competition. What it produces is not spectacle but balance, the quiet assurance that, however much the surface may change, life will continue its work below. And so, the fungal network teaches a kind of still wisdom. It does not resist the passage of time. It moves with it. It does not seek permanence. It builds through renewal. Every decay is a step toward regeneration. Every fall a quiet continuation of growth. In its silence, it reminds us that the most enduring structures in nature are not those that rise above the earth, but those that hold it together from within, invisible, essential, and endlessly patient. Fungi reveal that life's strength lies not in display, but in connection. The surface of the world shows us the visible forms of vitality, the rise of trees, the color of leaves, the motion of animals. Yet none of these could exist without what happens below. Beneath every living system, there is another one, quieter and older, turning complexity into balance. Fungi form that hidden architecture. They do not rise toward the light. They spread into the unseen, shaping the foundation upon which every other life depends. Every handful of soil contains thousands of fungal species, each performing a different role. Some extend the reach of roots. Others dissolve the remains of plants, freeing their nutrients. Some protect their hosts from harmful microbes, forming a living barrier between root and decay. Even those that appear parasitic play a part, limiting growth where balance demands restraint. Together, these countless species maintain the quiet order of the earth. The variety is immense, yet the principle is the same. All serve the cycle of renewal. Their growth is guided by gradients of moisture, of carbon, of minerals, the subtle signals of where balance is needed. They follow these lines with precision, extending hyphae through pores and channels so fine that only water and air can pass beside them. Through this silent motion, the structure of soil evolves. It becomes softer, more porous, more alive. The fungus itself leaves behind threads of organic matter that hold water like a sponge, ensuring that roots and microorganisms can thrive. The calm intelligence of fungi is expressed not through thought, but through equilibrium. To observe their progress would require the patience of the earth itself. What appears to us as stillness is, in truth, unbroken movement, slow, steady, and deliberate. Over time, a forest floor thickens with humus. The air grows damp with the faint scent of decomposition. Life above continues, unaware of the subtle chemistry beneath it. Fungi ask for no attention, yet their presence sustains everything that breathes. When their work ends in one form, it begins in another. Spores drift through the air, carried by the wind, the rain, or the passing of an animal. Some travel a few meters, others cross continents. They settle in new soil, waiting for conditions to be right. They can remain dormant for years, suspended between life and sleep, until moisture awakens them again. From that single spore, a new network begins to spread, reaching into its surroundings with quiet persistence. In this way, fungi occupy every corner of the planet, their presence almost eternal. They move invisibly through history, adapting to every change. When continents shifted and climates cooled, they adjusted. When humans appeared and began to clear forests, they adapted again. In the ruins of old cities, in the cracks of ancient walls, in the ash of burned forests, fungi reemerged, starting anew. They are not disturbed by loss, because loss is the beginning of their purpose. Wherever matter fades, they arrive to rebuild. In the smallest details of their design lies a form of balance that mirrors nature itself. Their threads are delicate, but together they are strong. Their growth is slow, yet their reach is endless. They thrive on what others abandon, turning waste into sustenance. In stillness, they achieve what movement cannot, the transformation of endings into beginnings. They are the quiet custodians of time, ensuring that nothing in creation ever truly disappears. Through their work, the world renews itself without pause. Each cycle of life, death, and decay becomes a continuous circle of nourishment. Trees fall, decompose, and rise again in their descendants. Leaves return to the soil that once fed them. The same molecules repeat their journey through countless forms. It is a process without vanity, without ambition, the calm perfection of continuity. In their silence, fungi express something beyond biology. They represent the patience of nature itself, a reminder that creation is not a single act but an ongoing conversation between elements. What we call stillness is, in truth, the quiet rhythm of transformation. Beneath the noise of the world, fungi continue their steady work, translating death into life, moment into memory, and time into permanence. And so, wherever we walk, we move over their unseen handiwork. Every field, every forest, every path holds their threads. They do not rise to meet the eye, but they are there, holding the world together from below, calm, continuous, and eternal. Over time, the quiet work of fungi becomes the foundation of everything that grows. Their threads lace the ground with invisible strength, binding each particle of soil to another. What seems like ordinary earth is, in truth, a living fabric, soft, porous, and quietly alive with their presence. Through this network, the planet holds its shape. It resists erosion, absorbs water, and breathes. Every step we take on solid ground is supported by the unseen architecture of fungal life. The calm persistence of fungi keeps the surface world balanced. In places where soil is disturbed, they begin the slow work of rebuilding it. After a flood, they reclaim the land, absorbing excess moisture and anchoring loose sediments. After fire, they rise again from spores hidden beneath the ash, feeding on the charred remains and preparing the ground for seeds to take root. In these moments, life seems to begin again from nothing, but beneath that rebirth lies the patient labor of fungi, transforming destruction into foundation. This same process happens on a smaller scale each day. Fallen leaves soften and darken. The remains of summer's plants collapse into the soil. Invisible filaments move through this debris, releasing enzymes that separate fiber from fiber, turning stiffness into softness. Within weeks, a dense layer of leaf litter becomes pliable and rich. Within months, it becomes soil. Nothing in this transformation is rushed. The pace of decay matches the rhythm of renewal, slow enough for balance, steady enough for life to continue. Even the air above reflects this patience. The faint scent of damp wood, of moss after rain, of earth after a storm. These are the quiet signatures of fungal life. They are reminders that beneath every moment of growth, decomposition is taking place just as carefully. Each breath of that scent carries molecules that were once part of wood or leaf, now airborne, completing their long return to the atmosphere. The fragrance of earth is the fragrance of change, made soft and calm by the touch of fungi. Their presence is everywhere, even in places where life seems absent. On mountainsides where cold limits growth, thin films of fungal threads cling to rock, waiting for lichen to return. In deserts, they remain hidden beneath the sand, preserving fragments of life until rare rains arrive. In the deep sea, they inhabit sediments, feeding on slow drifts of organic matter that fall from above. They do not conquer space. They fill it gently, waiting for time and circumstance to align. The patience of their growth is matched by the reach of their influence. Through centuries of quiet work, fungi create the conditions that allow ecosystems to recover. Forests regenerate faster where mycelium remains intact. Crops grow stronger in fields where soil is rich with fungal life. Even the most barren landscapes begin to soften once their networks take hold. In this way, fungi are both the beginning and the end of fertility, the unseen guardians of every green thing that rises toward the light. The persistence of this cycle gives the earth its sense of calm continuity. Nothing in nature truly ends because fungi refuse to let it. They ensure that every fallen branch, every decayed leaf, every forgotten seed becomes part of something larger. They dissolve the sharp edges of time, blending past and present until the difference disappears. Their work erases finality, replacing it with quiet continuation. To understand the world through fungi is to see it not as a sequence of events, but as a single, unbroken process. The soil beneath a tree may contain matter from thousands of lives before it. Plants, animals, rain, dust, all united through decay. The trunk of that same tree, when it eventually falls, will feed new generations. Nothing stands apart. Everything flows together, guided by the steady hand of the fungal kingdom. And so the forest breathes through them. The ground absorbs and releases air in slow rhythm, keeping balance between life and rest. The soundless respiration of fungi fills the soil, turning stillness into motion. They are the quiet pulse beneath every landscape, unseen, unhurried, and endlessly giving. When night settles and the world above sleeps, the kingdom below continues, unchanged. Through darkness and silence, it carries on, digesting, rebuilding, and renewing. The earth's calm endurance, the feeling of permanence that anchors life, is not stillness at all. It is the slow, steady breath of fungi, working patiently, invisibly, forever. The world above changes with every hour, but the world below changes in centuries. Fungi are the keepers of that slower rhythm. They move through the soil in patterns that never rush, transforming death into life, structure into softness, and matter into balance. Beneath the noise of rain and the whisper of wind, they continue without pause, building the quiet machinery that keeps the planet alive. Every forest, meadow, and field rests upon this invisible foundation. The soil itself is a living memory, a slow archive written in the chemistry of decay. Each layer records what once grew there. Leaves that fell decades ago, roots that reached downward and were reclaimed, the dust of insects, the shells of seeds. Through the work of fungi, all of it becomes one continuous layer, held together by threads of mycelium. The ground is not simply matter. It is history made soft. Over time, the boundaries between what lived and what remains dissolve. Molecules pass from one form to another unhurried, precise. The nitrogen in a fallen tree might one day feed a blade of grass. The carbon in a decayed leaf may become the breath of a bird. Fungi make this exchange possible. They write and erase the world in the same motion. A slow, looping script that turns endings into beginnings so gently that no moment of change can be seen. In their stillness, they express the deepest truth of life, that persistence does not require motion, and that progress does not require noise. Their existence shows that renewal is not dramatic, but patient. It happens quietly, in the spaces no one looks, beneath roots, beneath stones, beneath time itself. When seasons pass, fungi are the only constant. Spring stirs them with moisture. Summer feeds them with warmth. Autumn delivers their harvest of fallen leaves, and winter covers them with silence. They never resist the cycle. They complete it. Every rise of growth above the soil depends on their unending descent below it. Even after centuries, their traces remain. In the depth of ancient peatlands, scientists find remnants of fungal threads still intact, pale filaments preserved in darkness, unchanged by time. They carry within them the record of climates and forests long gone. Each thread a quiet witness to eras that no longer exist. They do not fossilize as bones do, but their memory remains in the chemistry of the earth, in the minerals they released, in the soil that still feeds life today. In the human world, where movement often defines value, fungi remind us of another kind of progress, one that happens so slowly it becomes indistinguishable from stillness. Their rhythm aligns with the deep pulse of the planet, the pace at which mountains erode and oceans shift. In that calm span of time, their work never falters. They restore, recycle, and balance, asking for nothing in return. Their patience is not passivity. It is precision. Each reaction unfolds exactly as it must, guided by the simplest rules of existence. They do not invent. They respond. They do not lead. They connect. The result is a form of harmony so complete that it becomes invisible, the kind of order that does not need to declare itself because it has always been there. And so, while the surface of the earth rises and falls, while life blooms and fades, the fungal world continues in silence, keeps the memory of what was, prepares the ground for what will be, and ensures that the balance between both never breaks. Beneath every step, beneath every breath, their quiet chemistry endures, patient, continuous, eternal. To understand fungi is to understand time itself, not as a line but as a circle, not as urgency but as flow. They are the quiet proof that nothing in nature is ever lost, only transformed, endlessly, beneath the still surface of the world. When we imagine the history of the earth, we tend to think in scenes: oceans forming, forests rising, animals roaming. Yet beneath every image, beneath every sound of wind or wave, the same quiet process has continued without interruption. Fungi have been here through it all, steady and unseen, shaping each chapter of the planet's story in silence. Their work is not written in color or movement, but in texture, in the feel of soil between fingers, in the scent of earth after rain, in the calm persistence that allows life to begin again after every ending. They do not seek permanence, yet they achieve it. Each generation of fungi is temporary, but the pattern they form is eternal. Spores drift, settle, and sprout, forming new networks that resemble those that came before. The mycelium beneath one forest may die, but another will grow in its place, following the same quiet design. In this repetition lies their immortality, not of the individual but of the pattern itself. The kingdom of fungi survives not by resisting change, but by embodying it. Even destruction serves their rhythm. When trees fall, when floods carry away the topsoil, when a hillside collapses, fungi begin again without hesitation. They do not mourn the loss. They restore the balance. From what is broken, they build softness. From what is burned, they build fertility. Each disaster, each collapse, is met not with resistance but with transformation. The stillness that follows catastrophe is their invitation to begin. The forests of today, dense with roots and light, exist because countless generations of fungi prepared the ground for them. Every field of grain, every patch of grass, every orchard rests on the remnants of what came before, converted by their chemistry into nourishment. Even the air, rich in oxygen, owes its balance in part to them, to the slow recycling of carbon, to the quiet exhalations of decay that keep the atmosphere in motion. Without fungi, the planet would hold its breath. It is in their stillness that they hold power. They need no movement to spread, no voice to announce their presence. Their strength lies in consistency. While the surface world blooms and withers in cycles of urgency, the fungal world continues with the same even pace it has kept for 1 billion years. Their patience defines them, and through that patience they define the planet. What they create is not visible beauty, but balance, a beauty that exists in the absence of chaos. Every fallen tree, every layer of humus, every breath of damp air is a sign that their work continues. The forest's peace, its sense of completeness, comes from them. The stillness we feel among trees is not silence, but the faint echo of their endless labor beneath our feet. If one stands in a forest long enough, the mind begins to slow to their rhythm. The noise of the world fades, replaced by a deeper awareness of moisture in the air, of the soft give of soil, of the faint smell of growth and decay intertwined. In that quiet, one begins to sense what fungi have always known: that life is not measured by speed or brightness, but by balance, by continuity, by the slow exchange that binds all things together. Their lesson is subtle but profound. To persist, one does not need to rise above. One only needs to connect, to take what is given, to give what is needed, and to let the process continue. Fungi do not dominate, they integrate. They do not compete, they sustain. In their hidden networks lies the most enduring truth of nature: that strength is not resistance, but harmony. And so, While the centuries turn, while mountains crumble and new continents form, the fungal kingdom remains. It bridges past and present, death and life, movement and rest. It is the quiet pulse beneath creation, unseen, unhurried, and unending. Everything that grows above depends on what continues below. And below, in the still, dark soil, the fungi remain, patient, deliberate, eternal, turning the world over once more in their gentle, endless rhythm. In the stillness beneath the world, the work of fungi never truly stops. Even when the surface lies frozen or scorched, the chemistry of the earth continues in small, quiet motions, invisible to sight, but steady as the pulse of time itself. The forest floor may appear lifeless in winter, or stripped bare after fire, but underneath, the threads endure. They hold fragments of warmth, tiny pockets of moisture, and the memory of every root that has passed through them. When conditions change, when rain returns or the frost retreats, they awaken with neither surprise nor effort. They simply resume what they were always doing, turning endings into beginnings. Over long stretches of time, the mycelial network changes the very structure of the land. Its filaments bind soil together, slow erosion, and hold nutrients in place. Valleys keep their shape because of them. Hills remain rich, meadows stay green. They do not build these landscapes, yet they preserve them with the same calm precision they bring to every part of life. The stability of the earth depends on their quiet presence. Every ecosystem carries the signature of this hidden order. Where the network thrives, the soil breathes freely. Air and water move through its pores. Seeds germinate easily, and roots grow straight and strong. Where it has been broken by overuse, pollution, or loss of vegetation, the land begins to lose its balance. The surface hardens, water runs off instead of sinking in, and the rhythm of growth falters. In time, the fungi return. They colonize the damaged soil, bringing back its softness, rebuilding it grain by grain. They do not repair in haste. They restore in silence. The patience of fungi allows the world to heal itself. It is not the rapid recovery of motion, but the slow correction of imbalance. Their work reminds the earth what it once was. A burned field becomes fertile again. A clear-cut forest finds new roots. Even in the most barren places, a thin layer of mycelium begins to form, weaving the first threads of life's return. In this quiet labor, there is no hierarchy, no central design. Each filament knows only the space it touches, the grain of soil, the trace of a root, the scent of decay nearby. Yet together, these countless strands behave as one mind, spreading and adjusting, finding the most efficient paths between nourishment and need. They respond to chemical signals, to moisture, to lightless gradients of life. They are the earth's slow communication, a system of response more ancient than thought. Through them, the past and present coexist. Every handful of soil contains matter from lives long gone. Plants that fell centuries ago, creatures that lived and disappeared before memory began. Their atoms have been turned and returned, shared and reshaped, over and over again through fungal hands. The ground beneath us is both new and ancient, always in the process of becoming. It is strange to think that all of this happens without intention. There is no will behind it, no consciousness as we understand it. Yet the result feels intelligent, as if the planet itself, through the patience of fungi, knows how to remain alive. The balance they maintain is not planned. It is simply the natural outcome of connection. Each reaction fulfills a need, each exchange restores equilibrium, until the system as a whole becomes self-sustaining. Fungi exist beyond the boundaries of urgency. They are neither alive in haste nor dead in waiting. They occupy the middle ground between what was and what will be, translating the two with perfect calm. In their world, decay is not loss, and growth is not victory. Both are the same, necessary, beautiful, inevitable. When we walk through a forest and feel the faint softness beneath our feet, we are treading on centuries of quiet renewal. Beneath that softness lies the patience of countless generations of fungi, each one adding its small contribution to the memory of the soil. The scent of earth after rain, the steadiness of a tree's growth, the fertile calm that fills a quiet valley. All of it is their work. In every sense that matters, they are the heartbeat of the world. Unhurried, unspoken, and unending. If one were to trace the slow rhythm of the earth itself, it would match the pace of fungi. They are the timekeepers of nature, not the ticking of seconds or the passing of seasons, but the vast, unbroken duration through which life renews itself. Every handful of soil is a record of that rhythm, every forest floor a living clock measuring the continuity of being. Their patience makes the world durable. Their slowness keeps it whole. Each spore that drifts through the air carries that rhythm within it. It is impossibly small, lighter than dust, nearly invisible, yet it contains everything needed to begin again. It waits in darkness or in light, in dryness or dampness, for as long as it must. Some rest for decades before awakening. When the right conditions arrive, a thread extends from the spore, soft and almost transparent, reaching into whatever lies nearby. The cycle resumes, unnoticed but inevitable. In this quiet renewal, the world finds its steadiness. The fungi that appear for a brief season, the mushrooms rising after rain, are only signals of the network below, moments when the hidden becomes visible. Their forms differ in shape and color, but their purpose is always the same: continuation. They rise, release spores into the air, and fade, leaving behind no mark of urgency. Their life follows a rhythm as calm as the turning of tides, as certain as the change from night to day. The mushrooms themselves are brief reminders that the unseen world beneath us is alive. They emerge through leaves and soil with no effort, as though the earth itself were breathing. Some glow faintly in darkness. Others spread wide, feeding the network that feeds the forest. Each appearance is both an ending and a beginning, a quiet gesture that life, even at its most temporary, is complete in its purpose. As they decay, the mushrooms give back what they took. Their cells dissolve into the ground, nourishing the same network that created them. Nothing remains for long. Nothing is wasted. In their brief emergence and return, the entire philosophy of nature is contained. To live is to rise gently from the earth, and to die is to return without resistance. The calmness of this process shapes everything around it. Forests do not panic when leaves fall. Rivers do not rush toward the sea. The world follows the same composure that fungi have practiced since before trees existed. Creation and decay are not opposites. They are the same act, performed at different moments. Life does not end. It changes form. The mycelium does not grieve for what disappears. It continues to weave, one thread at a time, until the pattern renews itself. Humans move too quickly to notice these subtleties. Our sense of time belongs to days and years, but fungi exist in a different measurement, a pace that is almost geological, a patience that belongs to the planet itself. They do not hurry toward results. They trust in process. They remind us that endurance is its own form of perfection. In old forests, where trunks lie moss-covered and quiet, this truth becomes visible. Every fallen tree is not a ruin but a bridge, a passage between what was and what will be. Beneath it, the network glows faintly with life, digesting the old wood, feeding the seedlings that will take its place. The line between decay and growth dissolves completely. The air feels rich because of it, still heavy with the scent of transformation. There is a humility in this way of living that defines the fungal kingdom. They demand nothing and resist nothing. They expand only where needed, retreat only when finished. Their purpose is never conquest. It is continuity. Through them, the planet demonstrates its quiet intelligence, a capacity to renew without spectacle, to endure without struggle. And so, even when the forest sleeps, even when the last snow of winter covers the ground, the rhythm continues beneath. The threads persist, carrying the memory of every summer, every rain, every life that has passed through. They do not stop because there is no end to what they do. There is only the slow breathing of the earth, one long, patient exhale that has lasted since the beginning of time. When the air warms again and the soil softens, the hidden network stirs. Moisture seeps downward, carrying traces of life, fragments of leaves, minerals and seeds, and fungi begin their quiet renewal. There is no signal, no dawn, no awakening as we understand it. The mycelium simply continues from where it left off, as though the pause of winter were only a slow breath. Each thread resumes its growth, following gradients of warmth and nourishment, reclaiming the balance that the cold only momentarily delayed. Above, the forest renews itself. Buds open, roots expand, and green returns to the canopy. Yet none of this movement could occur without the soft chemistry below. The mycelium releases stored nutrients, feeding the soil, unlocking carbon and nitrogen built up through months of stillness. The first flush of spring belongs to fungi long before it belongs to plants. Their invisible labor makes the visible world possible. It is here, in this quiet exchange between seasons, that the patience of fungi becomes most clear. They do not mark the turning of time. They sustain it. Their rhythm is the measure by which the earth keeps its balance, one that never begins or ends, only deepens. Every spring draws its fertility from their work. Every autumn gives them material to begin again. It is not a cycle of death and rebirth, but of seamless continuity. The forest floor becomes soft again, rich with their traces. New roots thread through old mycelium, forming bonds where generations overlap. The dead feed the living, and the living prepare the ground for what will come after. The smell of soil thickens, deep, calm, almost sweet, as decomposition and growth move together in perfect stillness. To walk through a forest at this time is to walk through layers of time itself, through centuries of quiet exchanges taking place beneath the surface. Even the smallest creatures depend on this calm order. Insects, worms, and microbes follow the trails that fungi create, feeding on what they release. Their movement stirs the soil, creating space for air and water to flow. The entire living system, vast, intricate, and self-sustaining, functions as one. It has no need for oversight or direction. The balance is its own intelligence, its stability a reflection of how perfectly each part trusts the others. The pattern repeats endlessly, yet it never feels repetitive. Each season carries traces of those before it, altered but familiar. The mycelium that supported one forest may, over centuries, become the soil of another. Spores from ancient trees drift through wind and rain, finding new homes far from their origins. Nothing is ever lost. It only changes location and form. The earth renews itself through quiet movement, through slow and deliberate transformation. At the edge of a meadow or deep within a forest, the same still logic governs. A single fallen branch will, in time, dissolve entirely. Its fibers will become part of the ground. That ground will give rise to roots, and those roots will one day support new trees. The shape of the world may change, but its substance remains constant, turning gently from solid to soil, from soil to growth, from growth to rest. Humans pass through this rhythm without noticing. Our lives are too brief, our movements too quick to align with it. Yet the fungi continue beneath us, unaffected by haste or noise. Their persistence is a quiet comfort, a reminder that stability does not depend on control. It depends on trust, the trust that every process will return to balance, that every loss will become nourishment, that time, however long, is always working toward renewal. If the earth could be said to have a voice, it would not be thunder or wind, but the silence of fungi, the slow, continuous murmur of transformation beneath all things. It is not a sound that can be heard, but a rhythm that can be felt. The weight of soil underfoot, the softness after rain, the scent of change that fills the air. Through them the planet breathes. It exhales decay and inhales life. It folds centuries into moments, and moments into eternity. And while everything else strives upward, fungi continue their steady work below, patient as time itself, the quiet architects of every beginning, the keepers of every end. When summer reaches its height, the quiet network beneath the ground becomes most alive. Warmth and moisture spread evenly through the soil, and the slow exchange between root and fungus strengthens. Nutrients rise and return in measured balance, like the tide of an invisible sea. Every forest, every field, even the smallest patch of moss participates in this movement. It happens too gradually to see, yet it shapes everything we can touch, breathe, and grow. In these months of abundance, fungi work with a calm precision that gives the season its richness. The air smells of soil because millions of tiny reactions unfold below. Cellulose breaking apart, minerals dissolving, gases shifting between earth and sky. To a passing breeze, it is only scent. To the ground itself, it is conversation. Every exchange between matter and decay adds to the gentle hum of equilibrium that defines life at its fullest. The visible world flourishes above, yet it mirrors the rhythm of what lies below. The branches of trees mimic the branching of mycelium. The veins of leaves reflect the flow of nutrients underground. Even the spread of clouds and rivers follows the same patterns. Fungi do not create this symmetry. They reveal it. Their quiet geometry repeats itself through everything, linking soil to sky in forms both simple and infinite. As sunlight filters through the canopy, mushrooms begin to appear, delicate, temporary, serene. They rise in clusters after rain, their stems pale against the dark floor of the forest. Each one is a brief message from the unseen world, an expression of completion. It is the moment when the hidden becomes visible, when the steady work of decomposition offers a sign that life is ready to begin again. The mushroom does not arrive suddenly. It is the surface whisper of years of patient chemistry below. For a short while, the forest seems to breathe differently. Spores drift through the air in slow spirals, carried by the smallest currents of wind. They settle on bark, on leaves, on stones, on the ground itself. Some will sleep for years. Others will awaken within hours, extending the first faint threads of new networks. Their journey is directionless but certain, a quiet expansion that ensures nothing in nature ends where it began. At dusk, the forest grows still. The heat of the day fades, and moisture gathers again on the ground. Beneath that thin layer of dew, the mycelium continues its steady exchange. Molecules move from one cell to another, nutrients dissolve, energy flows. It is the same rhythm that guided the first life on land, the same rhythm that will continue long after these particular trees and seasons have passed. The surface world measures time by light and shadow. The fungal world measures it by continuity. While leaves fall, sprout, and fall again, the network remains, weaving itself through centuries. The soil does not forget. It carries the traces of every root, every rain, every living thing that has touched it. The future of the forest is already written there, in the threads that wait just beneath the surface. Even in places untouched by human presence, the same process unfolds with identical calm. In mountain valleys where mist lingers, in grasslands where the air trembles with heat, in wetlands thick with stillness, fungi work without pause. They are everywhere, yet nowhere in particular. They ask for no recognition, only the space to continue. To lie down on the forest floor and feel the cool dampness of the earth is to rest against their endless labor. The quiet they create is not emptiness. It is balance. Every sound above, the rustle of leaves, the hum of insects, the faint creak of wood, exists because of what happens below. The world's stillness is their work, its peace their signature. And as the summer light fades into evening, the cycle continues, patient, unbroken, and eternal. Beneath every root and stone, fungi weave the world together again, one silent breath at a time. When the long days of summer begin to shorten and the first cool air touches the ground, fungi sense the change before anything else does. The soil shifts in temperature, the moisture deepens, and the rhythm of decay slows slightly, as though the earth itself were preparing for rest. The mycelium, which has worked quietly all season, begins to store what it has gathered. Sugars, minerals, and water move through its threads in measured streams, preparing the network to endure the long months ahead. It is not an ending but a soft retreat, a pause in movement, not in purpose. Above, the forest mirrors this transition. Leaves thicken and darken, fruits ripen, seeds grow heavy. The scent of the air changes, sweeter, quieter, touched with the faint must of soil. This is the season when everything begins to return to the ground. The trees, unaware of endings, simply release what they no longer need, and the fungi are ready to receive it. The first fallen leaf lands on the forest floor, joining millions that will follow. Within days, filaments of mycelium reach upward, spreading through the new layer of litter, beginning again the patient work of dissolution. Every leaf becomes a map of time. Its thin surface, now detached from the branch, contains the light of the summer that created it, the water that fed it, the air that passed through it. When fungi touch it, they begin to translate those memories back into elements, carbon to air, minerals to soil, moisture to cycle. The process is almost invisible, yet its scale is vast. Every autumn, billions of leaves descend, and each one becomes part of the same quiet conversion. The sound of rustling beneath feet is only the surface of something much deeper, the slow renewal of the world beneath. In these weeks, the forest floor grows soft and fragrant. The air feels heavier, saturated with the smell of life returning to its origin. The faint steam that rises from damp earth on cool mornings is a sign of ongoing reaction. Warmth generated by the steady respiration of fungi, turning organic matter into heat. The earth literally breathes through them. Each exhale is subtle but constant, the sum of countless transformations occurring in silence. The mushrooms of late summer and early autumn appear in abundance, feeding on the wealth of fallen matter. Some rise in circles where old roots once lay, forming what people call fairy rings. Patterns shaped not by magic but by the even expansion of mycelium through the soil. Others emerge singly, small and pale, dissolving within days. Their short lives complete the long season's labor. They release their spores into the damp air, ensuring the continuity of what has no need for memory. As nights grow longer, the work of the fungal world deepens. The surface may cool, but beneath, the temperature remains constant, insulated by layers of decaying leaves and soil. Within that hidden warmth, the threads continue to move, rearranging the past into something fertile. Even as the forest seems to slow, the cycle beneath accelerates. What falls today will be unrecognizable by spring, changed entirely, yet not lost. There is a quiet satisfaction in this rhythm. Nothing resists its place. The leaf that falls does not regret its descent. The fungus that consumes it does not rush the process. And the soil that forms beneath them both waits patiently to be used again. Every stage fulfills the same purpose, to sustain the next. The stillness that settles over the forest in autumn is not decay but balance, a long exhale before the year folds into silence. If one stands very still among the trees during this time, the air seems to carry a low hum, not of sound but of feeling. It is the sense of continuity, of a process so complete that it requires no correction. The forest rests, the fungi work, and the earth prepares. Nothing ends. Everything returns home. And as the final leaves drift down, the ground darkens with their memory. Beneath that growing layer, in the deep quiet where roots and mycelium intertwine, the same slow chemistry continues, unbroken, unseen, and eternal. The season may change, but the patience of the fungal world does not. It remains the still heartbeat beneath the turning of the year, the soft breath that carries life forward through every fading season. By the time autumn deepens into the quiet edge of winter, the rhythm of the world has slowed almost to stillness. The forest stands bare, its branches traced against pale light, and the air carries the scent of damp wood and cooling soil. On the surface, it seems that life has withdrawn, that growth has been suspended. Yet beneath the ground, the patient network of fungi continues, calm and uninterrupted. The cycle never stops. It only softens its pace to match the cold. The soil beneath the fallen leaves remains alive with quiet motion. Each layer of humus, each decomposing root, holds heat, the faint warmth of countless microscopic reactions still unfolding in darkness. Mycelium weaves through this depth like a slow, steady breath, connecting the remnants of summer to the promise of spring. Even as frost hardens the surface, the threads below continue to exchange water and carbon, adjusting to the new rhythm of the season. They have done this for millions of years. They have no fear of silence. The forest above may seem lifeless, but its stability depends on what happens here. The fallen leaves that form a blanket over the earth protect the living soil beneath. The fungi use that shelter, breaking down the layer from below, releasing nutrients that will wait through the winter for roots to reclaim. Each leaf becomes softer, darker, until it blends completely with the earth. The difference between what was leaf and what is soil disappears. The distinction between life and death fades. At times, after the first frost or a late rain, mushrooms still appear, pale shapes rising from the dark ground. They seem fragile, yet they are signs of resilience. Even in cold, the network finds ways to express itself, to complete its pattern of renewal. These late fruiting bodies release spores into the crisp air, a quiet assurance that the kingdom endures. The forest needs no reminder, but the sight of them brings a certain calm, the comfort of continuity. Within the frozen ground, the chemistry of life persists in microscopic scale. Sugars act as antifreeze within the cells of fungi, protecting them from cold. The mycelium bends but does not break, waiting with the stillness of a heartbeat slowed but never stopped. It endures through patience, not through resistance. When warmth returns, it will resume its full activity as though no time has passed, as though the winter were only another form of rest. All through these silent months, the earth gathers itself. Each snow that falls presses gently against the ground, sealing in the slow warmth below. The forest breathes less often, but it breathes. The wind that moves through bare branches stirs the air above a world still quietly alive. To imagine this persistence, this unbroken thread of life beneath the sleeping world, is to understand that stillness is not emptiness. It is the space where renewal gathers strength. By midwinter, the mycelium waits in its longest calm. Its threads lie deep and patient, protected by soil, roots, and snow. The molecules that once moved freely are still there, dormant but ready. There is no urgency in their waiting. The entire kingdom rests within its own rhythm, immune to the impatience of time. In this quiet balance, everything belongs. The trees, stripped of their leaves, stand as guardians of what lies beneath. The air above may be cold and thin, but beneath it, life continues in the steady pulse of the earth. The network hums without sound, maintaining the invisible equilibrium that binds each season to the next. And so, when the snow finally begins to melt, the transition is effortless. The ground drinks deeply, and warmth moves downward like light through water. The fungi awaken slowly, stretching through soil that never forgot them. The rhythm resumes, calm, familiar, eternal. The forest's renewal begins again, but in truth it never stopped. It only rested, as the earth itself rests, not in death, but in perfect, unbroken peace. As winter loosens its hold, the first hints of warmth seep back into the ground. Meltwater threads through the soil, waking what was never truly asleep. The frozen surface softens, and deep beneath it, the mycelium begins to move again, not with haste, but with the same patient rhythm it has always known. Its threads absorb moisture, swell slightly, and begin once more to trace the slow paths of renewal. The stillness of winter fades, but the calm remains. The forest begins to stir in layers. Above, the light changes first. The days lengthen, though the air stays cool. Snow thins into mist that hovers just above the ground, returning what it borrowed from the earth. Beneath, the chemical exchanges quicken. Nutrients stored in autumn flow through the fungal filaments and into waiting roots. What seems like the season's first breath of life is, in truth, the continuation of a process that never ended. The first signs of spring are almost soundless. Small shoots emerge from thawed soil, fed by the nutrients fungi have quietly released. The faint scent of dampness returns, rich, sweet, and unmistakably alive. Each tree, each blade of grass, Each moss-covered stone draws strength from the work that happened unseen through the cold. The forest above awakens, but the forest below has been awake all along. The mycelium spreads easily now, following trails of moisture through soil softened by meltwater. Its filaments move through the detritus of winter, bits of bark, leaves, and wood, dissolving what remains into nourishment for new growth. In its slow expansion, it binds the ground again, stabilizing what frost had fractured. It does not rebuild through speed, but through persistence. By the time the first flowers appear, the soil is already whole. At the edges of streams and beneath the moss, tiny fruiting bodies begin to form, faint and pale against the dark earth. They are the early messengers of spring, not decoration, but continuation. They rise briefly, scatter their spores, and disappear, leaving only the unseen life below. Their presence marks the completion of another cycle, the return from rest to renewal, from cold to warmth, from silence to movement. Everything that follows, the greening of the canopy, the hum of insects, the rush of water, is built upon this quiet groundwork. Without it, the surface world would rise and fall without order, growing but never enduring. The fungi bring rhythm to renewal, teaching the land how to breathe evenly again after its long stillness. Each new season is shaped by their patience. Each return of life depends on their calm. As days grow longer, their work blends once more with that of roots and bacteria, insects and rain. The system becomes whole again, millions of unseen interactions joining into a single balanced motion. The world appears to quicken, but beneath that movement, the same steady pulse continues. The fungi do not race forward. They simply remain, allowing everything else to flourish in their stability. The air grows warm enough to carry their scent again, faint, deep, and familiar. It drifts upward from the soil after rain, reminding the world that growth and decay are one and the same. The ground exhales, the trees open, and the balance between birth and dissolution returns. In every direction, life expands, but never without them. They are the quiet center around which the living world turns, a rhythm too slow to hear but impossible to stop. When the first full warmth of spring finally arrives, it does not announce itself with sudden change. It rises through the ground, carried by the same threads that held the earth through every silence before. The cycle continues unbroken. The forest breathes again, steady and calm, guided always by the patience of fungi, the quiet hands of time, tending the endless renewal of the world. By late spring, the forest stands in full renewal. The soil is warm, dark, and fragrant, a living fabric woven by the persistence of fungi. Beneath the carpet of new grass and young roots, the same unseen threads move calmly through their patient cycles. Every living thing above draws strength from this invisible order. The leaves unfurl not only because of sunlight, but because of the nourishment prepared in shadow. The forest breathes deeply again, though the lungs that sustain it lie beneath, quiet and without form. Fungi work now at their most balanced rhythm. They no longer need to build or rest. They simply maintain. Each filament extends a little farther, sensing gradients of moisture and minerals, redirecting energy wherever balance demands it. The network has no plan, no design, yet its movements achieve what no deliberate act could: harmony without interference. The trees feed the fungi feed the trees. What is given and what is received are the same thing, exchanged through patience and need. The ground grows softer with each passing rain. The mycelium binds the soil, giving it body and breath. Water seeps slowly downward, filtered through layers of life and decay, purified by the work of millions of tiny reactions. When that water reaches the roots, it carries not just sustenance, but memory. The quiet chemistry of every leaf, every season, every forgotten fragment that has passed through this place. In this way, even the smallest droplet becomes part of the forest's long history. Where sunlight touches the forest floor, mushrooms appear again, scattered and shy. Some are as thin as paper trembling in the breeze. Others are broad and sturdy, shaped like tiny shelters against the rain. They do not compete for space or light. They rise wherever balance allows, living only as long as they must. Each one is both an ending and a beginning, the closing note of a long silent process that will start again when they fade. Animals pass through this world without realizing the extent of its quiet complexity. A bird building a nest, a deer grazing in the shadows, a fox crossing the soft ground. All depend on the stability built by fungi. Even the air they breathe carries the faint trace of that work. Spores drift invisibly through sunlight, tiny seeds of continuity waiting for the right place to begin. The forest seems still, but beneath that stillness lies a slow and perfect motion. As spring stretches toward summer, the mycelial network thickens. Its filaments cluster beneath the roots of older trees, reinforcing the web that holds the entire ecosystem together. The soil hums with slow electricity. Not light, not sound, but a balance of forces that moves without direction. It is the same energy that shaped the planet's first forests, that sustained life before there were names for seasons or years. Continues now, unbroken, self-sustaining, eternal. When rain falls in the afternoon, the earth exhales a deep, familiar scent, the fragrance of renewal that has no beginning. It drifts upward through moss and bark, through air made soft by mist. It is not the smell of growth or decay, but of the two intertwined so completely they have become one. The forest, in that moment, feels timeless. Everything alive is connected by the same invisible rhythm, moving together through silence and space. If one could lie down and listen to the ground, one might almost feel it, a quiet vibration not of sound but of presence. It is the heartbeat of the earth itself, steady and without rush. The same pulse that has carried through every season, through every life that has ever touched the soil. It does not change because it does not need to. And as the days grow longer, the cycle continues without ceremony. Leaves open fully, roots stretch deeper, and the fungi keep their slow conversation with the world, dissolving, feeding, balancing, and binding. They do not rise or fall. They simply remain, the calm between every beginning and every end. In their patience lies the permanence of life. Through their stillness the world endures. And while everything above changes with light and time, beneath it all, the fungi continue, unseen, unhurried, eternal, the gentle keepers of the earth's endless rhythm. As summer returns once more, the forest reaches its quiet fullness. The air is warm and steady, the light soft where it falls through layers of green. The ground beneath is alive but calm, dense with the scent of soil that has been turned and renewed 1,000 times. The cycle has completed itself again, yet nothing feels repeated. Everything seems both ancient and new, shaped by the same slow patience that fungi have practiced since the beginning of life. The forest floor glows faintly in the shade, rich with moss, humus, and the thin white threads of mycelium. If the soil could be seen clearly, it would appear as a map of living light, countless filaments branching and converging in every direction, weaving the world together beneath our feet. Each thread carries water, minerals, memory. Each one connects the living to the dead, the present to the past. Every plant above, each fern, tree, and blade of grass, is fed by this hidden web. It is not a garden tended by hands, but a system that tends itself. The balance it maintains is so perfect that even decay feels peaceful. A fallen branch becomes soft, its bark peeling back, its core turning dark and sweet. The fungi move through it gently, dissolving its fibers until it blends completely with the ground. Nothing about this process is hurried or wasteful. What disappears does not vanish. It only changes form. The same happens with everything the forest gives. Leaves fall, flowers fade, and each time, the mycelium receives the offering with quiet certainty. What it breaks down will soon feed the roots again. In this exchange, there is no sense of loss, only return. Fungi have no beginning or ending in the way we imagine them. They exist in the continuous space between both, guiding what passes away into what becomes. When storms roll through in midsummer, heavy rain strikes the canopy, runs down trunks, and soaks the ground. The soil drinks deeply. The fungal network expands, responding to the moisture with slow, steady growth. In these moments, the world feels alive in every direction, above, within, and below. The thunder fades, but the work of renewal continues, calm and uninterrupted. Even destruction brings nourishment. Even chaos is met with order. Animals sense this still balance. Worms move easily through loosened soil, their tunnels lined with filaments that bind the earth together. Beetles bury fragments of fallen bark, and birds feed on the insects drawn to decay. Every motion above the ground echoes what happens below. The forest thrives because its foundation is built on quiet cooperation, each form of life fulfilling its purpose without noise or struggle. When the sun returns after rain, the smell of earth deepens. It rises in slow waves, dark, clean, and endless. This scent, though fleeting, carries the whole truth of the cycle. That nothing is ever wasted, that stillness creates life, and that every end is a preparation for beginning. The air feels thick with it, as if the forest itself were exhaling. By late summer, the mushrooms emerge once more, not as decoration, but as continuation. Their caps appear where moisture lingers, near fallen logs, beside roots, within the folds of moss. Each one stands for a moment, a brief sign of what has been happening all along. When they fade, their work remains. Their bodies dissolve, their spores rise, and the threads beneath keep weaving. Time itself feels different here. It stretches and folds within the rhythm of fungi, unmeasured and unbroken. What happens in a day for us may take them months, and what takes them centuries might still feel like a single, uninterrupted breath. They are not bound by our kind of time. They move by the logic of the earth, slow, deliberate, perfect in its patience. And when the last light of summer evening slips through the trees, the forest seems to fall into one great, steady breath. The leaves still, the air cools, and everything above grows quiet, mirroring the calm that has always existed below. The same unseen network holds it all together, endless and unchanged. In that silence, the truth becomes simple. Life endures because something beneath it remains constant, something that does not seek or rush or rest. The fungi keep the balance, turning the living into the soil that will give life again. The forest depends on them, the planet depends on them, and time itself depends on their patience. They do not demand to be seen because they are everywhere. In every handful of soil, in every breath of air that smells of rain and earth, their presence is felt, ancient, steady, and eternal. The quiet kingdom beneath our feet holds the world together, just as it always has, one invisible thread at a time. As the cycle completes itself once again, the forest stands in a calm that feels infinite. The air is thick with warmth, with the scent of leaves, with the quiet hum of life so balanced it no longer feels alive in motion but alive in stillness. Every sound, the faint shifting of branches, the low murmur of wind through the canopy, seems to move in rhythm with something older, slower, and deeper beneath the ground. There, beneath roots and stones, the fungal kingdom continues its endless conversation with the earth. It does not seek renewal. It is renewal. Each thread, each cell, repeats a pattern perfected through time so long that the passing of seasons means little. While the surface rises, falls, blossoms, and withers, the mycelium below carries on as it always has, absorbing, releasing, balancing, waiting. It holds the memory of every generation that has ever touched the soil. The roots of long-vanished trees, the bones of animals, the ashes of fire, the seeds that never sprouted. All of them remain there, rewritten into the chemistry of the ground. Nothing is lost. The world does not forget. The fungi remember on its behalf, not through thought, but through transformation. In that memory, time becomes circular. What was once alive becomes nourishment. What is nourishment becomes life again. Each atom completes the same journey through endless forms. Tree to soil, soil to root, root to air, air to rain, rain to fungus, and back again. The rhythm is too slow to hear, too subtle to see, but it continues, turning everything over gently, endlessly, without fatigue. As night falls, the forest deepens into silence. The temperature drops slightly, and the soil exhales faint warmth into the cool air. The balance between light and dark, between growth and rest, settles perfectly. It is here, in this hour between the heat of the day and the stillness of night, that the work of fungi feels most complete. There is no sign of movement, yet beneath the surface, every molecule shifts with purpose. A mushroom glows faintly in the half-light, its cap slick with dew, stands for a few days, then softens, melts back into the ground, and disappears. No trace remains but the threads that gave it form, already reclaiming its substance. The earth has no need to mark its passing. What is gone returns entirely, leaving the soil just a little richer than before. Through this quiet process, the world achieves what seems impossible. Change without disturbance, creation without destruction. The forest does not fight against time. It flows with it. Decay is not defeat but fulfillment, the return of energy to its source, the confirmation that the system still holds. This is the lesson of fungi, though they never mean to teach it. That life endures not by resisting change, but by surrendering to it with grace. All that exists above depends on this surrender below. The strength of roots, the height of trees, the clarity of rivers, all rely on the same invisible patience. The fungi move unseen, yet their presence steadies the world. They are the quiet structure that prevents chaos, the slow intelligence that keeps the earth breathing in balance. And when another year begins, when new rain falls and seeds wake beneath the soil, the pattern will repeat without interruption. The same threads will spread again, tracing the same hidden paths through the ground, connecting the same endless cycle of beginnings and returns. If the planet could dream, it would dream in this rhythm, calm, dark, and constant. It would dream of soil alive with silent movement, of leaves falling and returning, of a balance so complete it never needs repair. That dream is the reality beneath us, the world of fungi, the eternal kingdom underfoot. Here, in their endless patience, lies the truest form of peace, the peace that does not come from stillness alone, but from the quiet understanding that everything, in its time, returns home. When the year reaches its quietest point, everything above begins to rest once more. The air grows cooler, the evenings lengthen, and the light softens into a steady gold. To the eye, it seems like an ending, but the earth below is already preparing for the beginning that will follow. The fungi, calm and certain, sense the shift long before leaves fall or frost appears. Their threads thicken slightly, storing what the forest gives. In their patience, they bridge every season. They move without recognition, yet everything depends on them. The soil holds because of their weaving. The trees stand because of their support. The air remains clear because they keep the balance between what decays and what is born. The world's calm does not come from its surface, but from this invisible rhythm beneath. The deeper the quiet grows, the stronger the life within it becomes. As the first winds of autumn stir the canopy, the mycelium continues its measured breathing. It has no sense of urgency. It knows that nothing is ever lost. The leaves that drift downward are already accounted for. The seeds that will fall are already promised a place to rest. Beneath it all, the fungi prepare the ground, ensuring that the next forest will find everything it needs before it even begins. The sound of the forest changes too. Insects grow fewer. The air carries the faint scent of wood beginning to soften. The weight of the season gathers in every step, in every layer of soil turning darker and richer. To walk here is to walk over the history of 1,000 small transformations, fragments of bark, rain-soaked moss, and the delicate dust of old spores. Every path is built on what once lived, each step cushioned by memory. When the rains come, they fall steadily, sinking into the ground and feeding the threads below. The fungi open themselves to this gift, drawing in water, releasing warmth, and continuing their steady conversion of matter into life. The process is not work. It is existence. There is no decision, no resistance, only balance. The forest does not notice this transaction because it does not need to. It simply breathes in the result: richer soil, deeper roots, cleaner air. In the last days before winter, when the forest grows quiet enough to hear the stillness itself, the cycle feels complete. The mushrooms that once rose in abundance are gone, their spores scattered to wind and water, carried across distances they will never know. The mycelium retreats deeper into the soil, folding itself around the roots like a slow heartbeat. Everything that remains above, bare branches, fallen leaves, soft decay, is only the outer layer of something still thriving below. The world feels hushed, but it is not asleep. Beneath the frozen ground, life continues in slow pulses. Fungal threads, fine as silk, still move through soil warmed by the memory of summer. They are patient with the cold, as they are with everything. They have endured countless winters before, each one followed by a spring exactly as gentle, exactly as certain. When the first frost settles, the earth closes itself carefully, as if tucking in its own heart. The fungi, protected by the blanket of leaves and snow, wait in silence that is neither empty nor still. It is the silence of completion, of knowing that every task has been fulfilled, every exchange balanced. The surface may seem lifeless, but the pulse beneath it never stops. This is the way the planet breathes. One long inhalation through growth, one long exhalation through decay, both carried on the quiet work of fungi. The years pass through them, unbroken, each cycle layered upon the last. The forest remains not because it resists change, but because it accepts it completely. And so, as the light fades and the ground hardens, the kingdom beneath waits again. It waits not for spring, but for the next turn in the eternal rhythm, for the moment the soil will open, and the same threads, unchanged yet always new, will reach upward once more. The world will begin again, as it always has, under the calm, unhurried guidance of the fungi, the patient architects of time, the quiet guardians of every beginning and every end. In the final quiet before snow, the forest seems to hold its breath. The colors drain from the leaves, and the air sharpens with the scent of frost. The light becomes thin and still, resting softly on the bark of trees and the sleeping ground. Every movement slows. Birds fly lower, rivers quiet their sound, and even the wind seems to move with care. It is the moment between what has ended and what will soon begin, a pause in the world's long exhale. Beneath this stillness, the fungal network hums faintly with life. Its threads wind deep into the frozen soil, crossing roots and stones, holding the earth in a patient embrace. There is no rush to grow now, only the slow rearranging of what remains. Nutrients, once in motion, settle gently. Water freezes around them, locking the chemistry of renewal in place until warmth returns. Yet the fungi do not sleep. Their rhythm softens, but it continues. A heartbeat slowed but steady, a reminder that nothing in nature truly stops. In this suspended season, their work becomes invisible even to time. Every fallen leaf and fragment of bark is preserved beneath frost, waiting to be reabsorbed. The forest floor, buried under snow, rests atop a living memory. Each thread of mycelium holds the story of the year just past. The growth of spring, the fullness of summer, the surrender of autumn, all woven together in perfect quiet. The air above carries no sound now but the occasional groan of frozen wood. Even that, too, is a kind of music, slow, deliberate, echoing the patience of the ground below. The stillness is so complete that it feels like an ending, but endings in nature are only disguises for renewal. The fungi understand this better than anything else. They do not mark time as we do. They exist in the certainty that after stillness comes softness, after cold comes movement, and after silence comes life. Beneath the snow, small pockets of warmth remain where roots and filaments intertwine. The soil there glows faintly with stored energy. Even in the coldest months, the reactions continue, carbon shifting, nitrogen released, organic matter turning over grain by grain. These processes are slow enough to seem eternal. They shape the earth beneath the frost as gently as breath shapes glass. The forest above waits, unaware that its renewal has already begun. The next generation of spores rests quietly in the soil, sealed within shells so light that a single drop of thawing water will awaken them. They are scattered across continents, hidden in stones, carried in the air, caught in snowdrifts, patient beyond comprehension. When the first thaw arrives, they will awaken not as something new, but as the continuation of what has always been. In this silence, the fungi hold the balance of the world. They are neither asleep nor awake, neither past nor future. They exist in the middle of time, in the still space where transformation is gathering its strength. Their threads reach through the earth like veins of patience, connecting every frozen root, every buried seed, every trace of what will return. When the snow finally melts and light touches the ground again, nothing will have been lost. The forest will green from the same soil, the same chemistry, the same calm persistence. The fungi will rise unseen to meet it, their work unchanged, their rhythm eternal. And so, under the frozen silence of the world, life waits, not with urgency, but with trust. The fungi keep their watch, invisible and tireless, guarding the promise that the earth will breathe again. In their patience, the planet remembers itself. In their stillness, time continues. And beneath every layer of frost, every forgotten root and stone, the kingdom endures, quiet, faithful, unending, the slow heart of the living earth. When the thaw finally comes, it does not rush. The change arrives quietly, like a long-held breath released into the air. Water seeps downward in slow, deliberate threads, filling the small spaces left open through winter's stillness. The snow softens, collapses, and disappears into the soil. Beneath it, the mycelium wakes as if from a gentle dream. Its filaments, stiffened by frost, begin to move again, expanding almost imperceptibly through the damp earth. The forest feels the shift before it shows it. The ground exhales the faint scent of moisture and decay, the smell of a world remembering itself. Tiny roots begin to stir. The fungi resume their quiet alchemy, breaking apart the remains of autumn, releasing the minerals that have waited patiently through the cold. Every fallen leaf, every faded stem, every grain of darkened bark becomes part of the slow renewal. The change is so gradual that the line between seasons disappears. The forest does not leap from winter to spring. It dissolves from one into the other. The fungi make that transition possible. They carry the continuity that keeps the world whole, ensuring that time does not begin again but merely continues its soft, unbroken turning. In places where snow still lingers, the air feels heavy with promise. Drops of water fall from branches in steady rhythm, sinking into the ground that has never stopped breathing. The soil drinks deeply, thick with the memory of decay and the chemistry of life. Within it, the fungal network brightens with energy. Its invisible threads thread through every root, every seed, every grain of matter waiting for its next form. Soon the surface begins to change. Patches of green appear where sunlight lingers longest. Moss awakens first, absorbing water from the thaw. Small fungi rise beside it, pale and brief, feeding on the softened wood of fallen trees. Their fruiting bodies seem delicate, but they carry centuries within them. When they release their spores, they release the continuity of life itself. Countless invisible seeds drifting upward, waiting for another forest, another time, another silence. The first warmth brings movement to the smallest creatures. Insects emerge from hidden chambers, drawn to the scent of earth. Their feet disturb the soil, scattering spores farther. Worms begin to tunnel again, mixing the layers of humus into even richer soil. Every motion, however small, feeds the larger rhythm that the fungi maintain. The cycle resumes not with noise, but with balance, a slow harmony between what is waking and what has always been awake. As days lengthen, sunlight seeps through the canopy and touches the forest floor. The mycelium, sensing the return of energy, stretches outward with quiet determination. It feeds the roots of new plants, shares minerals through the web that connects the old trees to the young. Above, buds form on branches. Below, the threads of fungi glow faintly in the damp darkness, unseen but essential, guiding the flow of nourishment that will sustain another year. Each spring feels new to the surface world, but beneath it, the process is ancient. The same exchanges repeat, measured and precise, unchanged through time. The fungi do not celebrate renewal. They are renewal. They move through the soil without pause, dissolving what was, preparing what will be. They turn decay into fertility, loss into promise, silence into continuation. By the time the last patches of snow fade from the shadows, the cycle is complete once more. The forest hums with quiet motion. Every living thing above is fed by the invisible patience below. The world has survived another turning, another long stillness, another return. And as warmth settles back into the soil, the fungi continue, unbothered by the seasons they sustain. They do not mark beginnings or endings, only the steady pulse of transformation. Beneath every tree, every blade of grass, every drop of rain that sinks into the ground, they work without pause, unseen, unhurried, eternal. The forest breathes again, and beneath that breath, the ancient kingdom carries on, holding the earth together, turning time itself through its quiet, endless rhythm. By early spring, the thaw is complete. The forest stands washed and new, every surface damp with the memory of snow. Thin mists rise from the soil in the early light, curling among the trunks like smoke from a slow fire. The ground is soft now, pliant underfoot, alive with unseen motion. What was rigid in winter becomes flexible again, what was still begins to move. And beneath it all, the fungi continue their patient, measured work, silent, unbroken, eternal. The first roots of the year push downward into soil that has already been prepared for them. The fungi, long awake, guide their growth through networks invisible to the eye. A tree's new roots encounter old threads, and a conversation begins, slow, chemical, perfect in balance. Sugars pass downward, minerals rise upward, and the exchange renews the forest without ceremony. It happens the way breath happens, without thought or interruption. The surface world brightens quickly now. Ferns uncoil, moss deepens in color, and the first flowers break through thin patches of soil. Every sign of awakening, every hint of color or scent, owes its existence to the labor beneath. For the fungi, this is not change but continuity, the same process flowing through another moment in time. Above the ground, life feels like motion. Below, it feels like peace. When rain falls, the earth receives it as memory. Water soaks through the leaves, through the layers of humus and decay, into the waiting weave of mycelium. There, each drop joins a network already in motion, carrying with it traces of the world above, pollen, minerals, dust. The fungi translate these into nourishment, spreading it outward to everything that needs it. The forest drinks not through roots alone, but through the quiet cooperation of the soil itself. Tiny mushrooms appear again, almost unnoticed. Their shapes are modest, their colors muted by the wet earth. Some rise and vanish within a day. Others persist longer, feeding on the softened remains of winter wood. Each one completes a single task, to release spores into the air, to ensure that life continues exactly as it always has. They do this without intention, without change, without error. The scent of the ground after rain carries everything the eye cannot see. The chemistry of transformation, the breath of decay made gentle. It is the smell of balance, neither beginning nor end. In that fragrance lies the reassurance that the world is functioning quietly, that time has not been broken, that stillness still leads to renewal. As the days grow longer, the forest settles into its calm abundance. The canopy fills, the air thickens with warmth, and the soil becomes darker, richer, more alive with each passing hour. The mycelium spreads through it like thought through a dream, never hurrying, never resting. It touches every root, every fallen leaf, every particle of dust, stitching them together into one seamless fabric of existence. To walk through such a forest is to move across centuries layered in silence. Beneath each step lies the memory of everything that has ever grown here. The ancient trees that have fallen and fed the soil, the rains that have soaked it, the fires that once passed through and left it fertile again. All of it remains, folded into the chemistry of the present. The fungi keep that memory alive, translating the past into substance, turning what once was into what now is. By the height of spring, the forest hums with quiet equilibrium. Life above moves quickly, but life below moves at the speed of eternity. There is no conflict between them. The rushing of streams, the whisper of wind through leaves, the soundless breathing of the soil, all are parts of the same song. It is a rhythm older than the mountains, older than the roots themselves, and the fungi are its timekeepers. They do not seek to finish anything because in their world, nothing ends. Every cycle completes itself only to begin again. Every decay is a preparation, every silence a pause between movements. Beneath the brightness of spring, the kingdom below continues its slow perfection, patient, invisible, and everlasting. And so the forest endures. The trees rise, the seasons turn, the world renews itself, and always, beneath it all, the fungi remain. Quiet as thought, constant as time, and infinite in their stillness. Beneath everything that grows, there is always silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the calm hum of life working too slowly to be heard. The story of fungi is the story of that silence, of patience so deep it shapes the world without ever drawing attention to itself. From the beginning, they have been here, unseen and tireless, turning stone to soil, death to nourishment, chaos to balance. Every forest, every field, every garden, every breath of clean air has passed through their hands. They are not creators or destroyers. They are the space between those two things, the steady rhythm that lets the planet continue without pause. Their wisdom lies in how they move. They never rush, never force, never demand to be seen. They dissolve what was and prepare what will be, folding time into itself so that nothing is ever truly lost. Through them, the world learns the meaning of endurance, not resistance but gentle persistence, the kind that endures by giving way. When you walk across the ground, you are walking on centuries of their labor. Every grain of soil beneath your feet has passed through their care. The scent of earth after rain is their quiet exhale. The stillness that settles over a forest at dusk is their pulse. They do not rise to meet the light, yet everything that reaches for it depends on them. To understand fungi is to understand continuity, that beginnings and endings are not opposites, only different sides of the same motion. Life flows downward as much as upward, inward as much as outward, always through their endless networks of renewal. What vanishes becomes foundation, what falls becomes seed, what decays becomes life again. And so the world endures in silence. The forests rise and fade, the oceans shift, the mountains wear down, but beneath it all, the same threads persist, connecting each moment to every other. They are the memory of the planet, patient, impartial, eternal. The quiet kingdom beneath our feet does not need to be seen to matter. Its gift is steadiness, its lesson simplicity. That creation does not require noise, that permanence comes from letting go, and that the deepest forms of life are the ones that ask nothing in return. The next time the air smells of rain or soil, pause for a moment. The world you stand on is alive, breathing, remembering, and renewing itself one invisible thread at a time. The fungi are still there, as they always have been, keeping the rhythm of the earth, slow, calm, and infinite.